Chapter 1479. Xianxia was the old man's real name. However, there were 2 or 3 shops in Chang and city, so no one dared to call him by his full name. The most important thing was that this man was tricky and domineering, and he was very greedy. To be honest, he was a rascal. So basically, no one dared to offend him unless it was a big deal, mainly because they were afraid of being disgusted by him. The name Xianxia was gradually forgotten. The old man had long stopped teaching this name. He went to the Huaxing temple and asked for an excessive name, Zhang. Therefore, he would definitely explode if anyone dared to mention the name Xianxia. At this time, Zhang Shan dared to call him that in Zhang Shan's mansion. How could Zhang not explode? Bang! He slammed the teacup in his hand and pointed at Zhang Shan's nose as if he was shaking. Bastard, how dare you talk to old man like that? Do you believe that old man will tear down your house today? Old man, that's enough. For the sake of your age, we won't embarrass you today. But if you really want to make trouble, I'll remind you that there are 5 officials here today. If you continue to pester us endlessly, even if we beat you to death, the government won't hold you responsible. Do you believe me? Don't King make trouble for yourself. One of the bodyguards behind Zhang Shan warned with his hands on his hips. Zhang Fulai was furious. He stomped his crutch and said, "Oh my God, is there any law? Is there any law? How dare you kill people in broad daylight? Zhang Shan, you're so powerful. Don't think that I'm afraid of you now that you have that bastard Zhang Feng backing you up. You were born a member of the Zhang family, so you have to obey the rules of the Zhang family. I, Zhang Fuxing, am now an elder of the Zhang family, so I'm the sky above you. If that Zhang Feng wants this marriage to go through, this old man will have to agree." While speaking, the old man pointed at the guards and scolded, "Don't King think that you can show off just because you have Zhang Feng, that son of AB Tis, to back you up. Soon, the old man will report this to the authorities. How can you call yourself a great scholar? Was he even worthy of establishing a sect? Wasn't he embarrassed? Someone who doesn't even care about the most basic filial piety, is he worthy? CK your mother." The person standing beside Zhang Shan was the first to lose his cool. He rushed forward, grabbed Zhang Fuxing's collar, and lifted him up. In an instant, Zhang Fuxing was so scared that his whole body trembled. "What are you doing? Brother, forget it." Zhang Shan didn't want to get involved, but he still stepped forward and pulled the guard back. The guard was stunned. He sighed heavily and put Zhang Fuxing down. Fine. However, if anyone dares to say anything bad about the principal or destroy a blade of grass or a tree here, don't think that you can walk out of here unscathed. Zhang Shan sighed and didn't even look at Zhang Fuxing. "I won't give you anything you want. Also, Feng Zi's matter has nothing to do with me. Even if they get married in the future, it has nothing to do with you. If you dare to cause trouble on the mountain, think about the consequences for the Tang family first." Hearing this, the few officials couldn't sit still anymore. They stood up and wanted to leave, but before they could finish, they saw a few of the dozens of strong men standing at the door stand behind them. In an instant, they realized that something was wrong, but it was obviously impossible for them to leave now. They could only sit down, trembling with fear. The benefactor was also panicking at this time. However, with the lesson of the past, what could he say? He could only sit obediently. When Zhang Shan saw this, he smacked his lips and wanted to say something, but he didn't dare to. After all, he didn't dare to offend these people. He didn't dare to offend any of them. Seeing that they didn't say anything, Zhang Shan breathed a sigh of relief. However, that damned Zhang Fuxing said arrogantly again, "You don't dare to offend them? Fine. Old man, let's offend Zhang Feng today. Zhang Feng's surname is also Zhang. Maybe a few generations ago, they came from the same family. Let's not talk about that first. That damned man has made a meteoric rise. He and Yu Yao's marriage is set. How many times have they gone in and out of Chang, and as a couple? How many people in Chang and city don't know? But what about the Zhang family? Did the Zhang family take advantage of them? On the other hand, those outsiders have made a meteoric rise. Look at those people in Tonghui Lane. How arrogant are they? Look at the Zhang family. We're still eating chaff here. Is there anyone in the world like him? I think he's the first person since ancient times, the first person who's so shameless. What did I, Zhang Fuxing, do wrong? I'll make it clear today. If he wants to marry the daughter of the Zhang family, Zhang Feng is not qualified. Zhang Fuxing was really pissed off today. How could a mere guard dare to strut around here? Where was this? This was the Zhang family. This was the family of Zhang Feng's official wife. How dare he make trouble here? If he doesn't want to be shameless, then come. Zhang Shan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Everyone knew. The marriage was forced by the old scholar and others. If Zhang Feng wanted to, he would have gotten married long ago. Why would it be delayed until now? As for why, to put it bluntly, they wanted to get along with each other. Now it seemed that Zhang Feng was a little interested. However, things on the mountain were too busy. Everyone knew that even if the wedding date came, they couldn't get married. But this old guy seemed to think that Zhang Feng was in a hurry to marry Zhang Yuyao. At this time, the guards behind Zhang Shan all had their chests heaving up and down. At this time, a guard saw that the old guy was spitting saliva everywhere. He angrily punched the pillar at the door. In an instant, a fist-sized hole appeared on the pillar. The guard clenched his fists and stared at Zhang Fuxing. Boss, I feel like hitting someone. What should I do? Chapter 1480. Zhang Fuxing heard that. He was instantly enraged. He pointed at the guard with his walking stick and said, "Why? You can't help but want to hit him? Come. Old man, I'll let you hit him. Come on, beat him to death if you can. If you don't beat old man to death, you're not human." That shout. Everyone was instantly enraged. Even the 5 officials were frowning. They had seen people who wanted to die, but they had never seen anyone who wanted to die so badly. They were in someone else's house. Even if they beat him to death, as long as there was a valid reason, nothing would happen. Moreover, the 5 of them were present. Even Zhang Feng dared to kill someone in Chang and city with his men. Killing an old fart like you is nothing. Damn it, don't drag us down with you even if you have nothing better to do. If word of this got out, how would Lao Tzu and the others explain themselves when they got back? After all, even Li Xiaogong, Prince Li, had to act coquettishly when he saw Zhang Feng, let alone an old fart like you? Who do you think you are? The officials pondered. We can't do that. If a murder case were to be filed, none of them would be able to escape. They came to Zhang Feng's father-in-law's house to cause trouble. Putting everything else aside, how could the Minister of Personnel, Li Xiaogong, disturb them? That would be strange. Thinking of that, the 5 of them hurriedly got up and said, "Old sir, please calm down first. Let's talk things over, okay?" "Old sir, that's not right. After all, we're a family. How can a family speak like that? Let's calm down first. If there's anything, let's sit down and talk about it slowly, okay?" However, Zhang Fuxing saw that the others were trying to persuade him. In an instant he thought that the officials were afraid of him and were on his side. He pointed at Zhang Shan and said, "Officials, can't you stand it anymore? This is the Zhang family we're talking about. I'm the only elder in the Zhang family. Let's not talk about anything else. Let's talk about this matter first." He didn't do that in the first place, did he? What does Zhang Shan know? He was just a youngster who only knew how to make pastries. How would he know how to do business? What have I done? Wasn't it all for the sake of Zhang Shan? If by any chance you fall into Zhang Feng's trap, you'll lose the face of our Zhang clan's ancestors. After I die, will I be able to face my dead ancestors? Zhang Shan was trembling all over. It wasn't easy for him to persuade Zhang Feng's guards to come down, but when he saw it, he instantly felt dizzy. He hurriedly scolded, "Zhang Fuxing, you drove me out of the Zhang family in the presence of so many people in the East Market and the local government of Chang. You also declared that you would never allow me, Zhang Shan, to enter the gate of the Zhang family in the future. But now you're thinking of me? You and I both know what you're thinking. Why do you have to be so pretentious? I'm a hypocrite." Zhang Fuxing grabbed Zhang Shan and pulled him to the side of the official from the Ministry of Personnel. The corner of the official's mouth twitched. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "My surname is Shi, and my name is Jing. You can call me Shi Jing. If you have anything to say, just say it." "Well, shopkeeper Zhang, please calm down. We're a family. Let's talk about it. What do you think?" Seeing this, Zhang Fuxing became even more smug. He waved his hand and said, "I have nothing else to say today. I just want to be the judge. When this boy's parents died early, I saw that he was still young and didn't know the dangers of society. Besides, he had such a large family property, so I kindly helped him. But I didn't expect that this boy has grown up and doesn't recognize that family anymore. He even blamed me for taking over his family property. You can be the judge for me. Is there such a person in the world? Is old man the kind of person who takes over family property? Don't I want the Zhang clan's bloodline to continue so that it won't be buried in his hands? What did I do wrong?" In an instant, the faces of those officials could not help but be filled with black lines. Fu *K, he's really good at talking. He's turning black into white. Shi Jing chuckled and said apologetically, "After all, this is not the place to talk. If you really have something to say, why don't you go to the Chang and local government now? Or can you—" "No!" Hearing this, Zhang Fuxing immediately interrupted Shi Jing and said, "Everyone knows that place. It's in cahoots with Zhang Feng. I don't trust them." This, Shi Jing wanted to curse. Fu *Ku. If you don't go to the local government, what the Fu *K do you want to do? Fu *K, if you want to do it, you can do it secretly. Why did you wait until today? You just want to take advantage of the opportunity, don't you? If you can say that, what can't you do? However, when they looked behind them and saw the guards looking at them coldly, they didn't dare to move in an instant. They only prayed that Lord Zhang still had a trace of reason and wouldn't make things out of hand. Otherwise, they would really be miserable. But what they feared would happen. At this moment, there was a sound of cursing. A man rushed all the way into Zhang Shan's mansion. When Zhang Shan and the guards saw that, their faces instantly flashed with a touch of surprise. It was as if the person who came was their savior. And that was exactly what happened. The person who came was Cheng Chumo. As soon as Cheng Chumo entered, he looked up and down at the thin-mouthed old man who was grabbing Zhang Shan's collar. When the guards whispered in his ear, his face instantly turned cold. He looked at the old man indifferently and said, "Old man, do you have any shame?" Chapter 1481. In an instant. Just one sentence. That made the hearts of the officials sink. That was not the main point. The main point was that they did not recognize this person at first. Now that he was closer, they recognized him. Wasn't he one of the 4 great devils, Qin Tinu? Why was this malefic person here? Wasn't he deliberately making things difficult for them? Seeing this, Shi Jing hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. "I'm from the Ministry of Personnel." But before he could finish, Cheng Chumo slapped him to the side and said, "Old Master Zhang, what's going on?" Zhang Shan smiled bitterly and explained the ins and outs of the matter clearly. At this time, Cheng Chumo's lungs were about to explode. He glared at the several officials and said, "Are you F*King officials or not? Don't you care about right and wrong? In your eyes, there's only phosphorus fertilizer left? There's only profit left? Do you know where this is? This is Feng Zi's father-in-law's place. This is the place of the Chancellor of White Deer College, Zhang Feng, the president of the college. This is the place of the great Confucian scholar, Mr. Xian. Who is this old man? What right does he have to order us around here? Have all of you learned the laws of the great Tang from dogs?" They were all shocked. Shi Jing hurriedly said, "This? Young master, after all, this is a family matter. Although we're here, it's not appropriate for us to interfere in other people's family matters. Besides, this is Lord Zhang Feng's family matter, so it's even more inappropriate for us to interfere." But we tried to persuade them to go to the government office, but this old man refused to go. He said that the government office is in cahoots with Prince Zhang. Hearing this, Cheng Chumo suddenly looked at Zhang Fuxing. Zhang Fuxing naturally knew the names of the 4 great devils. Besides, the situation seemed to be a little different now. He hurriedly looked at Cheng Chumo and said, "What do you want to do? This is our family matter. Do you want to interfere as well? Family matters? Cheng Chumo smiled and cupped his hands at Zhang Shan. He discreetly slapped away Zhang Fuxing's hand that was grabbing Zhang Shan's collar and helped him sit at the head of the table. He then waved his hand and shouted at the several officials, "Bastards!" When they heard this, they felt as if they had been granted amnesty. He hurriedly ran away. After that benefactor wanted to leave, but he didn't dare to. At this moment, he was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. Zhang Feng glanced at him and pointed at him. "What does this person do?" "That fellow is here to take advantage of the situation as well. He said that he's the younger brother of old Master Zhang's master." "Oh?" Cheng Chumo let out a long "oh," and then said, "There's nothing for you to do here. Get out of here. I'll tell you guys, from today on, leave a few good men in this mansion. If anyone dares to come and cause trouble, beat them to death. Even if you beat him to death, nothing will happen." When the guards heard this, they instantly gave a military salute. At this moment, that benefactor's face turned extremely pale. When he saw Cheng Chumo waving his hand, he scampered out of the door. Today, he really wanted to slap himself a few times. He originally wanted to come here to get some benefits, but he didn't expect that not only did he not get any benefits, but he also got himself into trouble and almost lost his life. Zhang Feng. All of this was because of Zhang Feng. Zhang Shan really gave birth to a good daughter. Damn it, after all the unrelated people had left. Cheng Chumo minded his own business and sat beside Zhang Shan. He looked at Zhang Fuxing, who was glaring at him angrily. "Zhang Shajian, Lao Tzu remembers you. You were arrogant and domineering in Chang'an City. How is that stupid son of yours doing in Luozhou? Why didn't King kill him back then?" When Zhang Fuxing heard this, the hair on his back instantly stood on end. During the first year of Zhenguan, they were at their most prosperous. At that time, his eldest son was considered a big shot in Chang'an City. However, he heard that he had offended a big shot outside and was almost killed. When he was dragged back, he only had one breath left. If it weren't for the huge sum of money spent, the grass on his grave would have been a foot deep. But he didn't know who it was. Ever since his son recovered from his illness, he didn't dare to stay in Chang. He had no choice but to go to Luozhou. He even told him not to seek revenge. If he did, his entire family would be gone. "Now, you harmed my son?" Cheng Chumo nodded noncommittally. "Last March, your son barged into the house of an assistant minister of the Taifu Temple at night. He wanted to rape the daughter of the assistant minister. If Lao Tzu hadn't been present that night, the daughter of the assistant minister would have been killed by your son. Such a despicable act should have been exterminated back then." "How dare you? My son was sincere. How could he be a shameless person like you said? If we're talking about shameless people, I think you're the one. Who doesn't know that you're one of the 4 great demons of Chang'an City? You barged into an assistant minister's house in the middle of the night. Do you think he belongs to you? Do you think you can go whenever you want?" Cheng Chumo smiled at the angry Zhang Fuxing and didn't explain anything. Zhang Shan wanted to interrupt, but he didn't know what to say. After all, this incident had caused a stir in Chang'an City back then. At that time, the assistant minister of Taichung Temple had threatened to exterminate Zhang Fuxing's entire family. However, for some reason, the matter had been left unsettled. Could it be this person had saved Zhang Fuxing from death? Now that he thought about it, he understood everything that he didn't understand back then. But why did Qing Tinia mention this at this time? Could it be that he wanted to anger Zhang Fuxing? Thinking of this, Zhang Shan shuddered. He hurriedly asked, "Young Master Qin, were you the one who saved the Qin family?" Chapter 1482. Cheng Chumo nodded noncommittally and said, "Old Master Zhang, may I trouble you to go to the backyard? I have some personal matters to attend to." Zhang Shan's pupils constricted when he heard that. At this moment, "Young Master Qin, let's forget about this. After all, he didn't make things difficult for me. Speaking of which, we are indeed from the same family. As long as he doesn't make things difficult for me today, let him go." "You want me to go?" Zhang Fuxing didn't think too much. At this moment, his mind was full of hatred for his son and the purpose of today's visit. How could he think of anything else? He waved his walking stick and said, "Zhang Shan, if you're afraid of trouble, get lost. I'll settle the score with you later. I'll settle the score with this little bastard first. My son was almost killed by him." "Who is that?" "That's your cousin. Are you just going to watch your cousin be wronged like this?" What could Zhang Shan say? He knew all about his cousin. Among the stubborn people in Chang and city, he was the most stubborn one. He ate, drank, gambled, and drank. The most abominable thing was, he even coveted the daughter of the assistant minister. He broke into their house in the middle of the night. What Zhang Fuxing did not know was that on that night, all of his accomplices were killed. His son, who knew if he was lucky or not, managed to survive. Who would have thought that he would still want to settle the score today? Cheng Tiniu wanted to lure him away just now because he was infuriated and wanted to kill him. After all, this was the Zhang family's territory. If he really killed Zhang Fuxing here, would the Zhang family spare him? It would be so annoying. But at this moment, Cheng Chumo smiled in the face of Zhang Fuxing's aggressiveness. He pursed his lips and said, "What are you waiting for? Go, invite old Master Zhang in. Also, inform the Chang and local government and the Ministry of Personnel that Lao Tzu said to give them 2 hours to investigate the background of Zhang Fuxing's family." These guards all knew Cheng Chumo's true identity. When they heard Cheng Chumo's words, they instantly understood. After leaving a dozen people behind, the rest left in a hurry. He even took Zhang Shan away. Zhang Shan was invited to the backyard. Mrs. Zhang immediately came over and asked, "What's going on in front?" Zhang Shan smiled bitterly. He looked at Zhang Yuyao and the woman and said, "Zhang Fuxing is in big trouble this time. Zhang Feng didn't come, but the 4 great demon King Cheng Tiniu came." What? Madame Zhang's expression changed drastically when she heard that. Cheng Tiniu was someone who dared to kill people on the streets, and he didn't even need to take responsibility. Everyone knew that there must be some incredible empress behind him. But no one has ever seen it. Every time he got into trouble, he would still be seen swaggering on the streets in a few days. How could an ordinary family afford to offend this person? Even the sons of the officials had to take a detour when they saw him, let alone these merchants. They were simply not on the same level, okay? Then, has uncle left yet? Zhang Shan smiled bitterly and said, "How could it be that easy? It's not like you don't know his reputation." Madame Zhang's expression changed drastically when she heard that. She asked, "Then why are you here? Why don't you go and keep an eye on him? What if something happens?" Although we've been expelled from the Zhang family, we're still members of the Zhang family. If something happens here, let alone our reputation, will the Zhang family let us go? Zhang Shan spread out his hands and said, "I want to, but I was invited by Chen Tiniu. Moreover, Chen Tiniu has already admitted that he was the one who almost killed Zhang Fuxing's son back then. Now, he even sent someone to ask the Ministry of Personnel to investigate Zhang Fuxing's account. Could they investigate Zhang Fuxing's accounts? They couldn't. But how did Zhang Fuxing get started? Wasn't it because of his ability to swindle people? Coupled with his ability to speculate, everything he had today was what he had today. Obviously, Cheng Tiniu was really angry. He wanted to completely eliminate the Zhang family's future troubles. But, after all, this was related by blood. Madame Zhang was also clear about what was right and wrong. She was panicking. At this moment, Zhang Yuyao whispered, "Father, then, did you send someone to look for Zhang Feng? I reckon only Zhang Feng can handle this matter." Zhang Shan slapped his forehead and said, "That's right. How could I have forgotten about this? Someone come quickly." Zhang Shan hurriedly shouted at the door. A moment later, the old butler hurried in. Zhang Shan hurriedly said, "Immediately send someone to the mountain to inform Zhang Feng. Immediately, get a fast horse." At the same time, on the mountain, Zhang Feng carried a string of money with him. Along the way, he was stumped by this kid's amazing business acumen several times. This kid was born to be a business genius. However, Zhang Feng was only half a jar. How could he know too much? It had only been 4 hours and he was already speechless. He could only look for a few great scholars to send this kid to the academy to learn how to read. Otherwise, this little demon would kill Zhang Feng sooner or later. However, when Zhang Feng arrived at the door of his house, the guard hurriedly told him about the people in Zhang Shan's mansion. Hearing this, Zhang Feng's face instantly changed and he said, "Damn it, this is bad. This grandson is going to get into big trouble." With this grandson's temper, how could he be handling things? If he said something wrong, he would beat people up. Damn it, at the thought of this, Zhang Feng threw the string of money and shouted, "Men, prepare a horse for me. I want to go down the mountain." Chapter 1483. This matter had to be settled as soon as possible. Although there seemed to be no problem at the moment, once something happened, it would definitely be a big problem. This was indisputable. This matter should have already attracted the attention of the emperor. As for the land sale and phosphate fertilizer, although Zhang Feng had already made arrangements, these people actually went to Zhang Shan's residence. This was a bit too much. It was no wonder that Zhang Feng was so impatient. Lion, it was these people. Motherf asterisk her, they were disgusting. If you said you would come properly, then I would have accepted it. But you actually used underhanded methods. This is your fault. Zhang Feng's actions instantly alarmed the entire upper management of the academy. Yu Shernan and the others were in the courtyard, flipping through Zhang Feng's poetry and drinking wine. When they heard Zhang Feng's impatient voice, they couldn't help but be stunned. They hurriedly sent someone to inquire about it, and their faces instantly changed. Especially the old Xianxia, who almost fainted. He hurriedly sent someone to find a carriage and was about to run down the mountain. Fortunately, he was stopped by someone. Chu Suiliang hurriedly said, "Brother Zihuai, don't worry. I just asked that child Tainyo has already left. Perhaps by the time Fengzi comes down the mountain, the matter with the Zhang family will have already been settled. Besides, Zhang Shan is not a fool. He will naturally go to Chang and University to ask for help." The old Shutsai was still unwilling and hurriedly said, No, I still have to go down the mountain and take a look. This marriage, speaking of which, this old man was the one who made the decision to tell Fengzi. It's not like you don't know that child Tainyo's temper is bad. This kid is impetuous and will only make things worse. Go where? Don't worry, brother Zihuai. Li Gang also hurriedly dissuaded him, saying, Don't worry, I will ask Li Gan to go personally. How about it? After much persuasion, the old Xiaotsai was finally calmed down. Then, Li Gang personally went to find Li Chengqian and told him about the matter. Li Chengqian and the others' faces suddenly changed. After yesterday's incident, they expected that something big would happen today. But they didn't expect it to be such a big matter. There were actually some officials, as well as some smelly people, who actually dared to come over and ask for things. Did he have no king shame? Master, don't be anxious. I'll go down the mountain now and I'll definitely give you a satisfactory answer. When Li Gang heard that, he nodded and said, Good. Remember, don't do anything out of line. Tainyo, that child, has already left the mountain. Who knows, there might be blood today. You have to deal with it properly. What? Li Chengqian was instantly shocked. He didn't have time to say anything. He called out to everyone and then hurriedly rushed towards the mountain gate. There was a rule on the mountain that no student was allowed to sit in a sedan chair on the mountain except for the Confucian scholars, the teachers, and the kitchen staff. Therefore, even though he was the crown prince, he could only run as fast as he could. Almost all of the students in the academy had seen this shot. In the next moment, the news of another incident at the foot of the mountain spread like wildfire. But all of this, very few people in Chang and city knew about it. But Li Shimin had already received the news. The person who sent the news was Fang Xianling. After entering the imperial study, Fang Xianling hurriedly reported this matter to Li Shimin. When Li Shimin saw this, he was also confused. My dear minister, what's the matter with Zhang Fuxing? And what's the matter with these officials? Li Shimin also had some guesses about this. People. They all had their own selfish motives. Especially at this time. Before, whether it was papermaking or other things, those huge profits could only make them envious, but they couldn't do anything about it. This phosphate fertilizer was different. This thing not only had huge profits, but also could be used as soon as possible. In this society, food was the only magic weapon that could improve one's reputation and status. Therefore, in front of this thing, everyone had to erupt with an unprecedented desire. But Li Shimin also had some fun. He didn't expect that the Zhang family mansion, which they had been hiding, would be targeted by someone. This was simply preposterous. Wouldn't that mean that after a period of time, all the places related to Zhang Feng would be targeted by others? In that case, didn't it mean that there would be people who would target the illusory Lao Li? The fake identity of Lao Li had been used all this time. Although Li Shimin had a feeling that this matter would be exposed, he had already planned to find someone who looked similar to his disguise to replace him. But until now, no one had found him. Moreover, this identity couldn't be studied deeply. This window paper would be exposed with a bucket of water. At this time, it wasn't a question of whether Li Shimin wanted to lay his cards on the table, but this was not the right time. He didn't know when the unknown pair of hands behind his back would find him. This person must have thought of this and guessed his true identity. That was why he dared to come and cause trouble so blatantly. As for the purpose, it was to make him retreat or expose himself. Once his identity was exposed, there would naturally be cracks in his relationship with Zhang Feng, and it would no longer be the same as before. What a vicious mind. How could he, Li Shimin, dare to let Zhang Feng reveal himself at this time? How would he dare to lay his cards on the table? Chapter 1484. They wanted to play him, the emperor, in their hands. This time, Zhang Feng's scheme had just been revealed, and such a thing happened. Li Shimin couldn't help but feel a hint of conspiracy. It was too much of a coincidence. Why did Zhang Fuxing not appear earlier or later, but at this time? Why did those officials of various departments also happen to appear in Zhang Shan's mansion at this time? Was it a coincidence? Or was it a deliberate arrangement by those two hands? One had to know that something had just happened last night. How could he not be angry when such a big mess happened today? Li Shimin slammed the table and said, "They've gone too far, they've gone too far. Feng, where is Qing Yaojin?" "Your Majesty, General Cheng has gone to Zhang Shan's mansion in person." When Li Shimin heard this, he let out a sigh of relief and said, "Immediately order the Ministry of Justice to speed up the interrogation of those people from yesterday. In addition, those officials who entered and appeared in Zhang Shan's mansion, arrest them all for me." Hearing this, Fang Xianling hurriedly bowed and hurriedly left. At this time, when Fang Xianling just left the imperial study, Wei Zheng and 2 or 3 spies also hurried into the imperial study. Before Wei Zheng could speak, Li Shimin waved his hand to stop him and then asked, "What have you found?" One of the spies hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, the house last night has been thoroughly searched, but we didn't find anything. The whole house has been flattened, but half of the foundation of a wall is still there. Your Majesty, we've checked all the residents in the surrounding area, but none of them knew anything about the people in this house. They only said that this house was bought by someone, but no one has ever lived in it. Your Majesty, half an hour ago, someone found some burned wood shavings on the edge of the Longsho Canal, but they haven't been able to find any trace of it. Let's compare these burned wood shavings with the house." "They don't seem to belong to the house," Li Shimin said angrily. "So you didn't find anything?" Instantly, everyone's heart trembled, and they hurriedly knelt on the ground, trembling. Seeing this, Wei Zheng hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, after what happened last night, after the fire and the water from the rescue team, many things were basically destroyed. In my opinion, this matter should be dealt with slowly. Perhaps Zhang Shan." Li Shimin interrupted Wei Zheng. He waved his hand and said, "For Prime Minister Wei's sake, I'll let you off this time. I'll give you 3 days to find clues for me." The few of them hurriedly left the imperial study as if they had been granted amnesty. After everyone left, Li Shimin lit a cigarette and pointed to the seat beside him, signaling Wei Zheng to sit down. Then he asked, "What's the matter?" Wei Zheng bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I've heard about what happened in Zhang Shan's mansion today, but I don't think it has anything to do with those people. If Prime Minister Wei is here to plead for those people, then don't talk about it anymore. You naturally know the pros and cons of this matter. I don't want to mention it. You also know that those hands behind my back always make me unable to sleep well. This time, If it's not him, then it's fine. But if it's him, Prime Minister Wei, have you thought about the consequences of this matter? Hearing this, Wei Jing fell silent. This matter was really as the emperor said. What if it's him? This matter was a little terrifying. Seeing this, Li Shimin sighed and rubbed his forehead, saying, "Don't ask about this matter. I'd like to see what's going on today's matter. Think about it. If I tolerate this matter, what about the next time? What if this person comes again next time? That person must know my identity like the back of his hand, so he dares to be so unscrupulous. If I tolerate it, do you think I have to act according to his wishes every time?" Hearing this, Wei Jing instantly turned pale. This matter. It was really as the emperor said. Who could guarantee that it wasn't a conspiracy? Moreover, these mysteries were now connected by Zhang Feng. From being able to manipulate the entire war outside the Tang dynasty to the relationship between the noble families, what else couldn't he do? Thinking of this, Wei Jing took a deep breath, bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I'm stupid." Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "Forget it. If it weren't for Fengzi's unintentional guess, even I wouldn't have thought of it. You know what to do about this matter, don't you?" Wei Jing was stunned. "I'm stupid. Your Majesty, please tell me." Li Shimin waved his hand and said, "When you go out later, argue with me. Then, when you go out, spread rumors that you don't get along with me. And in the morning court tomorrow, you know what to do, don't you?" Wei Zheng's face changed, and he hurriedly knelt and said, "Your Majesty, I dare not do that." Li Shimin helped Wei Zheng up with a serious face and said, "I said that this is a test. Although I don't get along with you on the surface, I'll give you a task. Secretly use your people to find out the dishonest people in the capital during this period, and investigate the princes and dukes." Wei Zheng's face suddenly changed when he heard this. "Your Majesty, I'm afraid." Chapter 1485. In Chang'an City, news of what had happened in Zhang Shan's mansion had spread like wildfire. Almost everyone knew about it. They even knew about the grudge between Zhang Fuxing and Zhang Shan, as well as Zhang Shan's past. Rumor has it that when Zhang Shan was 5 years old, the Zhang family was considered a big family in Chang'an City. Zhang Shan's parents were influential in Chang'an and Luozhou, but they were attacked by bandits on their way back to Chang'an from Luozhou. Both of them died. After that, this ignorant and incompetent Zhang Shajian came out and said that Zhang Shan was still young, so he was supposed to guard the family property for him. But who would have thought that this guy would drive the young Zhang Shan out of the house as soon as he entered the house? He relied on the Zhang family's property to get to where he is now, but you have to know that Zhang Shan's mother was pregnant at that time. Although there are many rumors that Zhang Shajian might have done this to Zhang Shan's parents, there is no evidence. In front of a tea stall not far from the Zhang mansion, an old man shook his head as he looked at the people gathered at the entrance of the Zhang mansion. At this time, the stall was also crowded with people. They were all waiting for the old man to continue. "Old man, how do you know so much?" "That's right. Although we have heard about these things, it has been so many years. Even the government can't do anything about it. Is there anything else we don't know about you? Tell us about it. Can this Zhang Shajian get some benefits from Zhang Shan this time?" Seeing that the crowd was asking so enthusiastically, there were even some yamen runners who were listening attentively. The old man wiped his mouth and said with a chuckle, "Back then, we were people of the Zhang mansion. Zhang Shan's parents treated us very well. After so many years, they have always been brooding over this matter. Back then, when Zhang Shajian entered the Zhang mansion, he chased us out of the Zhang mansion. We knew that this matter was not simple. But what can we do? Who would believe me? Today, this Zhang Shajian, who can't see the situation clearly, might have taken a liking to the phosphate fertilizer business. That's why he got rid of me. Although his wishful thinking is good, he doesn't know that this business is not something that anyone can touch." After talking for a while, the old man shook his head and sighed. He seemed to have thought of something sad, or he seemed to have seen that this time he could finally avenge the hatred of 40 years ago. He was so excited that he actually started to sob. How could the crowd wait? He could not help but leave resentfully. A few yamen runners also left in a hurry. They explained everything clearly in front of a sedan chair not far away. In the palanquin, Niu Weili's eyes flashed with joy when he heard this. This was an old case. If he could solve it now, it would definitely be an opportunity for him to jump up another rank. Thinking of this, Niu Weili lifted the curtain of the sedan and said, "Quickly go find that old man. Treat him well, as if he were your own father. You must report this matter to me, no matter how big or small. Tonight I will reward you handsomely." When the Yamen runner heard this, he immediately ran away with a big smile. Niu Weili hurriedly got out of the sedan chair and looked at Zhang Mansion. He thought for a while and said to the private advisor beside him, "Didn't you just say that there was a benefactor? Where is he? He should still be inside? Quickly go and check this person's background. Check again whether this was his own idea or someone else ordered him to do it. It's best to put him in the county Yamen's prison first." The private advisor's expression froze. "Master, this seems to be against the rules." Niu Weili stared at him. "Can't you think of a way? Are you a pig?" When the private advisor heard this, he hurriedly left with a few Yamen runners. After everyone left, Niu Weili walked into Zhang Shan's mansion leisurely. Before he entered, he was stopped by a few strong men. After revealing his identity, Niu Weili entered Zhang Shan's mansion with a head full of cold sweat. But when he just stepped on the threshold, he heard a burst of howling, which sounded like a pig being slaughtered, coming from afar. "Son of AB*T, you're living off me while helping others. You're rebelling. Everyone come and see. That son of a bitch, Zhang Shan, is going to kill his elder at home." When Niu Weili heard this, his eyelids twitched instantly. At this moment he finally saw the person through the crowd. The person was a fat woman in a pink robe. She was a little bloated and fat. Like a basketball, she rushed over here. Behind her, two gorgeously dressed men in their 20s, who looked seriously malnourished, were also following behind her. They were beating gongs and drums and howling. Behind him, there was a group of servants with sticks and hoes in their hands. They charged over like fiends. Everyone along the way immediately dispersed when they saw this. No one dared to look them in the eye. When Niu Weili saw this, he instantly felt a big headache. He knew this person. She was a big shot in Chang'an City. She was just a helpless person. As long as you were targeted by her, you would have to pray for yourself. She was out to get you. In the past month, there had been a lot of cases related to her, big and small. This was the helplessness that troubled Niu Weili the most. At this moment, the guards of Chang'an University, who were guarding the entrance of Zhang Shan's mansion, could not help but be surprised when they saw this. "Oh, brothers, there is really someone who doesn't want to live anymore. How dare she come here to court death? Come, brothers, gather. Today, let's loosen up our muscles and bones." Niu Weili. Chapter 1486. Seeing this, Niu Weili. He hurriedly stopped them. But he also knew that these people only took orders from Zhang Feng. As for the others, "You are a ball." Seeing this, Niu Weili hurriedly said, "Brothers, wait a minute. Don't be impulsive. I'll go in and look for Brother Tiniu. Don't be impulsive. Master Niu, for the sake of your friendship with our master, you should quickly get out of the way and pretend that you don't know anything. Otherwise, you will be splashed with blood." Hearing this, Niu Weili's eyelids twitched wildly. Looking at the group of murderous people, Niu Weili knew that something big was going to happen today. However, he didn't dare to stay here for too long. If someone really died here, he wouldn't be able to explain himself even if he had 100 mouths. He hurriedly went in to see if Chen Tiniu could think of a way to make these people stop, or ask Zhang Shan to help. As soon as Niu Weili entered the door, the 7 guards took the opportunity to close the gate of Zhang Mansion. One of them, who seemed to be the leader, stepped forward and cupped his hands in salute, saying, "Dear neighbors, old and young, today's matter has nothing to do with you. You also saw that it was this group of ruffians who came to Principal Zhang's father-in-law's house to make trouble. We were also ordered to protect the safety of Principal Zhang's family. Therefore, if a fight breaks out later, first of all, please be witnesses. Second of all, you'd better stand further away so that you won't be splashed with pig's blood." "Hi, young master, just do it. It won't get in the way. If the police officer comes later, we can explain it clearly, right? It was a joke. They were the guards of President Zhang and Zhang Feng. They came here to protect the safety of the father-in-law. It was reasonable for them to have the upper hand. And where was this? This was Chang'an City. How many years had it been since anyone dared to stir up trouble here? Today, they would finally be able to see enough. These were all the members of the Zhang family. Although they had separated a long time ago, in the face of benefits, anything could be salvaged. However, what Zhang Shajian did was too disgusting. At this time, the matter of the phosphate fertilizer was already known by the whole world. Why didn't you come earlier? Why didn't you come earlier? Why did you have to come at this critical juncture? Isn't this courting death? The imperial ranking list had clearly stated that nobody was allowed to get involved in this matter. However, there were still people who weren't afraid of death and wanted to steal the phosphorus fertilizer. Most importantly, this phosphate fertilizer was also produced by Zhang Feng. This matter was also his family's business. Didn't you see that a few days ago, when President Zhang Feng made a move in Chang'an City, no one did anything about it? This was the phosphate fertilizer. It was also an imperial edict issued by the emperor. In other words, the emperor had already acquiesced to this matter. At this time, these people came here to make trouble. They didn't understand the ways of the world, did they? Under the suspicious gazes of the crowd, the ball-like woman finally arrived at the entrance of Zhang Shan's mansion with a murderous look on her face. As soon as she arrived at the entrance of the mansion, the fat woman acted as if she didn't know anything. She waved her hand and said, "Come on, pour the prepared gift on his door. Whoever dares to block the way, pour it on him." While speaking, he saw more than a dozen fat and strong men, covering their noses as they carried buckets after buckets of wine from the tribute buckets they had been immersed in. At first, the 7 guards didn't take it seriously. But when this thing came out, their faces changed dramatically in an instant. At this time, they stood vigilantly at the gate of the mansion and formed a line of defense. The guard who shouted before stepped forward and scolded, "This is the mansion of President Zhang's father-in-law. How dare you make trouble here? Retreat quickly. Yo, where did this bastard come from? How dare he bark at me here? Come on, pour it for me. How can I let you be *tsh point fingers at me here? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll cut off your tongue." The fat woman looked at the 7 people with disdain, then pointed at herself and her 2 sons behind her with her thumb and said, "See, that bastard Zhang Feng has grown up. He doesn't even come to pay respects to me. I'm going back to my own home. How can I block the way for you bastards? Who do you think you are? Go back and call that little bastard Zhang Feng down for me. Shut up. Shut up." At this time, 2 angry roars sounded, one in front of the woman and one behind her. In an instant, the woman was furious. Her 2 silly sons behind her were also furious. "Are you blind? Where is this?" "This is Lao Tzu's mansion. Lao Tzu is going back to his own home. It's none of your business. Get the F***ck out of Lao Tzu's way. That's right. Go and tell that Zhang Feng to quickly come and pay respects to his brother-in-law." As for the 7 guards, they did not pay any attention to them. Instead, they looked behind the crowd at a robust man with a curly beard who had arrived with an ashen face. Merely, this robust man was a bit old. However, his aura was still present. The man was Cheng Yaojin. Cheng Yaojin looked at the woman and the 2 people who were still barking. He waved to the dozen people behind him and said, "Cut off their tongues for Lao Tzu." Chapter 1487. This time, everyone's voices came to an abrupt halt, because the guards behind this brawny man were actually holding Modeo. Modeo. This was a standard weapon. Only the military, the imperial guards, and the chamberlains of imperial inscriptions were allowed to use them. Apart from that, only the personal guards of the House of Duke and the chamberlain of imperial inscriptions were qualified to use them. At this moment, when they saw the cold light of the Modeo, the 7 guards cupped their fists together. "Greetings, Master Qin." They naturally knew Cheng Yaojin. This guy was the god of killing in the army. Cheng Yaojin waved his hand. He ignored them. On the contrary, The woman saw the situation and directly rushed forward, wanting to grab Cheng Yaojin's face. Cheng Yaojin waved his hand and asked his guards to make way. He stood there with his hands behind his back, waiting. Good, you big fool. Which law of the Tang dynasty wrote that other people have to intervene in family matters? Who do you think you are? Are you worthy of cutting off my tongue? You, the more she said, the more unpleasant her words were. Chen Yaojin was not a good-tempered person. How could he stand this at this time? He went up and gave the woman a fierce kick, causing her to fall to the ground. In an instant, the woman's face turned pale, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from her mouth the moment she fell. Seeing the blood, the woman screamed miserably. Oh my God! Murder! Where is the justice? Where is the law? Someone come, quickly report to the officials. Someone come. Mother, save me. Woo 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 ah. At this moment, two shrill screams like pigs being slaughtered sounded behind the fat woman. In an instant, the fat woman's crying stopped abruptly. She suddenly looked back and saw that her two precious sons were actually, their tongues were actually pulled out while they were still alive. At this time, the two of them curled up on the ground like shrimps. But before they could do anything, in the fat woman's horrified gaze, the modeo in the hands of the two strong men cut off their legs. In an instant, his miserable screams were even louder and clearer, and could be heard even from a mile away. This time, the fat woman finally sobered up. Seeing the two men raise their sabers again, he frantically screamed, "No, no! We are President Zhang Zhangfeng's relatives. We are family. If you dare to kill his brother-in-law, he will definitely not let." Before she could finish, another weak scream came from behind her. The fat woman did not dare to look back. She lay on the ground trembling and crawled to Cheng Yaojin's feet. I know I was wrong. Please forgive my child. Master and I have a child at an old age. Please, scram. Cheng Yaojin kicked the woman away in disgust. He waved his hand and ordered irritably, clean it up. Put it in a place where no one is around. Interrogate them and find out who came up with the idea. These pigs are not capable of coming up with such a plan. While speaking, Cheng Yaojin hurried into Zhang Mansion. Until now, all the people who were guarding here were shouting happily in their hearts. This Zhang Shajian was originally not a good person. When he was young, he went everywhere to attract women and had no children. When he was old, 20 years ago, when he was in his 50s, he went to a brothel and accidentally made this fat woman pregnant. This fat woman and this Zhang Shajian were simply a match made in heaven. Both of them were rotten to the bone. When this woman returned to the mansion, the next day, she heard that Zhang Shajian's first wife had hanged herself. As for whether she really hanged herself or not, no one was clear about it. In less than a year, Zhang Shajian's dozens of wives and concubines all disappeared inexplicably. Some people said that they were killed by this fat woman. Some people said that they were driven away. There were different opinions. No one knew what was going on. When this woman first entered Zhang family, she was quite beautiful. But since Zhang family had no more wives and concubines, this woman's weight also soared crazily. And it was horizontal. At this time, these more than 50 people were kicked, beaten, and dragged to a corner. Everyone knew what would happen to them, but no one felt pity at this time. This was the saddest thing. It could also be said that this family was simply bad to the bone. Even if a beggar died, some people would feel pity. But at this time, when they saw these people's fate, they felt very happy. It was not that people's hearts were bad to the bone. It could only be said that these people were bad to the bone. At this time, when people saw the 7 guards cleaning the blood at the door, they criticized the fat woman and her 2 sons' crimes again. At this time, some people even got firecrackers. Firecrackers. Ta-da! At this time, the noisy sound of horse hooves made people turn around and look in the direction of the East Market entrance. They saw a horse carriage was flying toward them. Behind the horse carriage, there was a group of more than 100 imperial guards. When they saw the people coming, they subconsciously made way for them. The guards of Chang and University, who were cleaning up the bloodstains, also stood guard and became alert. What's going on? As soon as the horse carriage stopped, Fang Xianling asked in horror. These guards had seen Fang Xianling on the mountain. At this time, he explained the ins and outs of the matter politely. In addition to the complaints of the people next to him, Fang Xianling was so angry that he almost wanted to chop people with a knife. After knowing that Qing Yaojin had personally brought people to interrogate, he waved his hand and led his men to rush into Zhang Shan's mansion. More than 100 imperial guards surrounded the entire mansion amidst the clanging sounds of armor clashing. The people near the mansion were all dismissed after being interrogated. Looking at the fully armed imperial guards, Lin Mingya thought. Hearing the shrill screams coming from the alley, everyone's scalp instantly tingled. Chapter 1488. However, the crowd still had no intention of leaving. On the contrary, they were looking forward to it even more. They wanted to see what Zhang Fuxing Xianxia would look like when he came out and saw the miserable state of his woman and his precious son. However, after Fang Xianling entered the mansion, the entire mansion fell into a state of alert. At this time, with the mansion as the center, a large number of spies had already spread out. Under the watchful eyes of all the curious people, countless people suddenly appeared. However, to the common people, they didn't discover anything. After all, the phosphate fertilizer was too tempting. Although many people had lost their lives because of this matter, there were still countless people who would advance dauntlessly for it. Fang Xuanling's heart sank further and further. He could faintly guess that this matter seemed to be related to the mastermind behind the scenes. Otherwise, just like what he had heard today, how could these people have so many little calculations? Why didn't they come out early in the morning? Why did they wait until the fire broke out last night? Wasn't all this too much of a coincidence? Zhang Shan's mansion was not big. As soon as he entered, he heard quarreling and cursing sounds coming from the main hall. When Fang Xianling heard this, he took a deep breath and entered. As soon as he entered, he saw Zhang Shan smoking a cigarette in front of a pillar at the entrance with a dejected look on his face. An old man with white hair and a white beard was sitting in the main seat of the main hall. Chen Chumo was holding the old man by the neck with one fist raised high. When Fang Xianling saw this, he hurriedly shouted, "Tai Niu, don't be rash." When Zhang Shan saw Fang Xianling arrive, he hurriedly got up and said with a wry smile, "Old Fang, this matter, you see." Fang Xianling had always looked like a nice person. When Zhang Fuxing saw this, he saw that the big black man was actually obedient and let go of his hand. He cried out hurriedly, "Brother, you have to help me. I don't know what's wrong with this big blockhead, but he wanted to kill the old man from the beginning. Please be the judge." "Where is this?" "This is the Zhang mansion. This is our own home. How could such a boor barge into our house in broad daylight?" "That's enough." Fang Xianling could not bear to listen anymore. He hurriedly interrupted the old man and said, "Zhang Fuxing, I know where this is better than you. I advise you to think about the consequences. If you can leave now, we won't hold you responsible. If you don't listen to us and continue to cause trouble, the old man might invite you to the Ministry of Justice for tea." "Uncle Fang, why are you telling him this?" asked the county magistrate, what this idiot said. Chen Chumo was so angry that he pointed at Niu Weili and said, "Tell me what happened just now." However, before he could speak, Fang Xianling waved his hand and said, "I know what happened. As for what I don't know, I've already guessed it. I'll deal with this matter. Don't be rash. I'm here on behalf of the second master." Hearing that it was the emperor's order, Chen Chumo was instantly terrified. Fang Xianling ignored Zhang Fuxing, who had been pestering him and crying. He turned his back to Niu Weili and said, "You've seen what happened, right? Don't interfere in this matter. The Imperial Guards will personally escort him to the Ministry of Justice. As for the rest, you can do as you see fit." While speaking, Niu Weili hurriedly got up and ran away as if he had been granted amnesty. These people were not easy to deal with. In addition, the Imperial Guards were here. He was eager to get rid of himself. At this time, after Niu Weili left, Fang Xianling slowly sat in front of Zhang Fuxing and said with a cold face, "I think you know the cause of this matter better than I do. Before I came, I asked someone to go to the Ministry of Justice and ask them to investigate what happened that year, including the death of your wife, your concubines, and your business affairs. As for the tragedy that happened outside Chang and city, do you have an explanation? Hearing this, Zhang Fuxing. In an instant, the shrill howl stopped abruptly. Instead, he looked at Fang Xianling with a shocked expression. He looked up and down at Fang Xianling and said, "You? Who are you? Why can you mobilize the Imperial Guards? Also, I've already said that this is my family's matter. Although this old man doesn't know anything, I still know a little about the laws of Great Tang. This is my family's matter. Could it be that the government wants to interfere? And what does this matter have to do with today's matter? Let's talk about other things later. Since I'm here today, let's make it clear. The phosphate fertilizer business is mine. You go back and tell Zhang Feng, that bastard, if he doesn't agree, this business, I'm afraid your wishful thinking is too early." At this time, a cold voice slowly sounded from outside the door. In an instant, the eyes of Zhang Shan and the others lit up. They looked at the door in surprise. Chapter 1489. The people outside the door. It was Li Qingqian and the others. And in front of Li Qingqian was Zhang Feng. Originally, the two groups of people left the mountain at different times. But because of the horses, plus Zhang Feng didn't know how to ride, they were delayed for a while on the mountain, and the two groups just happened to meet. Then they came down the mountain together. As soon as they entered the city, they heard what happened here. How dare they delay? They hurriedly drove the carriage and went straight here. At this time, Zhang Fuxing saw everyone and was looking up and down at Zhang Feng, who was standing in front of them. And Zhang Feng was also looking at this old guy. And Cheng Chumo also quickly told everything that happened just now. Zhang Feng had seen shameless people. For example, in his previous life, his roommates freeloaded food and drinks in the dormitory for a month, and people who were freeloaded fast food when they went out. In short, Zhang Feng had seen all kinds of people, but he had never seen such a shameless person. This was simply, at this time, before Zhang Feng could speak. Zhang Fuxing began to act pitiful. "You are Zhang Feng?" Zhang Feng nodded and said, "Yes, who are you?" "Yo, didn't Zhang Shan tell you about me? Listen carefully, I'm Zhang Fuxing, Zhang Shan's uncle. Speaking of which, you should call me grandfather, but today is not the occasion. After today, we'll go back to the ancestral home, and I'll let you enter the ancestral hall." Zhang Feng pretended to be surprised and said, "Yo, so it's grandfather. What are you doing here today with great fanfare?" Seeing Zhang Feng being so sensible, Zhang Fuxing laughed and sat back in the main seat and said, "Today, I don't have any other intentions. Didn't I hear that you made some phosphate fertilizer? This time, I'm here to help you expand the phosphate fertilizer business. Also, I want to give you the white paper, braised meat, and barbecue. You weren't engaged to Yu Yao before, so you gave these to outsiders. I don't blame you. But now you are a man with a family. Naturally, these properties should be taken back in the hands of your own people. Only then can you be at ease." And, when Zhang Fuxing saw that Zhang Feng was so easy to talk to, he thought that Zhang Feng was enlightened. He simply said everything that he wanted to say. Fang Xuanling's fist was clenched so tightly that it made cracking sounds. This made Zhang Feng quite surprised. Was he a martial artist? If the two old men fought, who would win? After the time it took to finish a meal, Zhang Fuxing finally closed his mouth in satisfaction. Zhang Feng walked up to Zhang Fuxing, looking down at him as he asked in a neither cold nor warm tone, "So, grandfather wants you to tell me that the deeds to the White Deer Institute and the Chang'an Academy, as well as the two other academies, have to be given to you?" Hearing this, Zhang Fuxing said with a straight face, "Child, what are you talking about? What do you mean give it to me? I am just keeping it for you. You are still young and don't know the evils of society, so..." Zhang Feng interrupted Zhang Fuxing, picked his ears and said, "You may not know, but I have a villa near the residence of the 16 kings. Yesterday, I bought 300 hectares of land. The land from Lantian to Shao Mountain is also mine. As for the coal mines in Lantian and Erpi Ridge, they are also mine. And the salt you are eating now is also made by me. Do you want me to give it all to grandfather?" Cheng Chumo couldn't help but snort. Then he immediately sat up straight, as if he didn't know what was going on. At this time, Li Chengqian and Fang Xianling pulled the anxious Zhang Shan aside to watch the show. Zhang Fusheng glanced at everyone as if he was showing off. He nodded and said, "That's not necessary, but this society is dangerous. The good things should be kept in the Zhang family's warehouse to be safe." Zhang Feng clicked his tongue in wonder and looked at Zhang Fusheng with a smile. "Old man, I was so polite to you just now because of old Master Zhang and Yu Yao. Not to mention that my marriage with Yu Yao is still pending, even if Lao Tzu is married. Do you think you can take away Lao Tzu's things? Where is your face?" Zhang Fusheng didn't expect Zhang Feng to say such a thing. He was speechless for a while. After a while, Zhang Fusheng pointed at Zhang Feng with a trembling finger and said, You, what about me? Haven't you seen Lao Tzu before? Lao Tzu is strange. Where did you get the face to ask me for things? Don't you have a brain? I don't even dare to say that I'll sell this thing myself, but you're the one who wants it? Zhang Fusheng's lungs were about to explode from anger. Originally, he thought that this brat was tactful. Who would have thought that this brat was actually not enlightened? Moreover, he was so unreasonable. He had been to Phoenix Ridge in Liang Province before. He often went there as well. After all, he was running a small business and had to go through the streets to get to the market. The tea leaves and silkworms produced by the Liang state capital were not expensive and were his main source of supply. How could he not be familiar with this place? After knowing about Zhang Feng's marriage, he even asked the local villagers about it. Zhang Feng was honest and dutiful. How was he the same as Zhang Feng in front of him? This was clearly a monkey that had become a demon. Otherwise, why would he come here today? At that moment, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. He couldn't help but scold, "Little thief, old man knew that you were up to no good. Don't think that no one knows what you're doing just because you did it flawlessly. Kid, you're not Zhang Feng from Phoenix Ridge. Tell me, who are you?" Chapter 1490. Hearing that, instantly, everyone was stunned. They all looked at Zhang Feng. In fact, many people didn't care about Zhang Feng's background. After all, they had just gone through the chaos of war. Many people were separated from their families. How could they have a family? As long as you were not a Turk or a Hu, as long as you had a paperback issued by the officials, you were considered a Tang. As for Zhang Feng's identity, the emperor had sent someone to draw a portrait of Zhang Feng and took the portrait to Fenghuang Ridge. Some of the characteristics of Zhang Feng were the same. However, they didn't expect that the old man would say that today. Now that he said that, everyone wanted to know where he got the evidence from. Zhang Feng was also a little nervous. He had learned an old saying in books, "Stay away from villains and women." But he didn't expect that today he would be defeated by a villain. However, was Zhang Feng afraid? Even if his identity was exposed, what did it matter? Zhang Feng knew the etiquette of the entire Tang dynasty better than anyone else. Even the emperor was a Chang. As a native Han, what was there to be afraid of? Zhang Feng's expression didn't change as he smiled faintly and said, "Old thing, I'll see what kind of trouble you're going to make today. If you can convince me, I'll let you go today. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving today. I'll get someone to carry you out." In an instant, Fang Xianling and others nodded repeatedly. Even Zhang Shan also nodded repeatedly. It didn't matter where Zhang Feng was from. What mattered was his current achievements. Even if he wasn't a Han, so what? Based on the words of a man who made a fortune by lying? Don't talk nonsense. Zhang Fusheng also faintly sensed that the situation was not ordinary. He put away his disdain and said, "These years, I have been traveling between Liangzhou and Guangzhou. Phoenix Mountain produces high mountain tea, so I often go there. As for your Zhang family, I have passed by it many times. Last time, I heard that you and Yu Yao were engaged, so I asked in passing. Those people said that you're an honest and dull person who only cares about studying and learning how to read. You don't care about anything else. Every 2 or 3 days, you'll run up the mountain. You don't even farm or gather tea. You only care about finding an empty space. Every time you run up the mountain, you'll spend an entire day. But everyone look at man, how is he lazy? This was like a monkey turning into a spirit. Therefore, I dare to say that he is not Zhang Feng. Puff. Motherf asterisk Ker, Feng Zi, this is the first time I've heard that someone actually dared to call you a monkey spirit. Ha, Lao Tzu couldn't hold it in any longer. This is the first time I've seen such an idiot in this world. Ha. Fang Xuanling's face was also flushed red. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Zhang Shan couldn't hold it in any longer. It was supposed to be a boring topic. Why did it suddenly change in style? Feng Zi, that's enough. We still have things to do, Zhang Shan reminded him in a low voice. Hearing this, Zhang Feng nodded. He put away the smile on his face and didn't even bother to look at Zhang Fuxing. He said, if there's nothing else, you really can't leave here today? Zhang Feng, I'm your tenant. Seeing this, Zhang Fuxing took out his trump card and directly shouted sadly, Feng Zi, I know that you're a kind person and I know your current achievements. But you can't just stand by and watch us like this, right? We're a family of family. I'm doing this, saying this, aren't I thinking for you? Think about it, this is such a big industry. You're not worried about leaving it to outsiders? Shut up. Zhang Feng was also annoyed. He waved his hand and said, since you attacked Master Zhang in the street, drove him out, and seized his property, you and Master Zhang have been two different families. Today, I don't know who ordered you to come, and I don't want to know, because Lao Tzu is disgusted by you. Hearing this, Zhang Fuxing's face changed dramatically. So everything that happened before was just Zhang Feng toying with him? Thinking of this, Zhang Fuxing's face changed instantly. He scolded, Zhang, this is Chang and city under the emperor's feet. And this is not your family's business. You have no right to control me. Zhang Feng couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, Chin Tiniu. Hearing this, Chin Chumo hurriedly got up and said, yes. Drag him out. But hearing this, Zhang Fuxing instantly screamed, Zhang Feng, what are you doing? I'm your grandfather. How dare you do this? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Hearing this, Zhang Feng patted his forehead and said, I almost forgot. Tiniu, do you know how to kill people? This time, not to mention Zhang Fuxing, even Zhang Shan's eyelids were twitching wildly. Zi, don't be impulsive. It's not worth it to do this for such a person. Zhang Fuxing was also angry. At this time, being carried by Chinchumo, his 3 souls and 7 spirits were gone. He hurriedly begged for mercy, Fengzi, Zhang Fengno, Prince Zhang, please spare my life. I won't dare to come again in the future. When Zhang Feng heard this, he nodded as if he was easy to talk to. Sure. Then tell me, who sent you here today? This, in an instant. Zhang Fuxing was speechless. Seeing this, Zhang Feng spread his hands. In that case, I'm sorry, but I'll have to kill you first. Chapter 1491. In fact, from what Zhang Feng had learned before and after coming here today, he could tell that this matter was not driven by someone else. If there was someone who was driven by someone else, it would not be Zhang Fuxing. As for today's matter, Zhang Feng guessed that the problem should be with Zhang Fuxing's family. Or, at this moment, it was indeed a coincidence. Before the imperial edict appeared today, no one knew what would happen to the phosphate fertilizer. In addition, the matter of the wheat sprouting last night had been brewing. At this moment, with the support of the imperial edict, the truth of the matter was completely revealed in an instant. It was also because of this that people started to make plans. In the face of such a huge temptation, many people would choose to take the risk because of this thing. This was not strange. Especially when Zhang Fuxing said that he had been to the Liang State House and the tea at Phoenix Ridge. Zhang Feng was already certain that this matter had nothing to do with Zhang Fuxing. It was just that this unlucky person had run into it himself. This could not be blamed on others. At this moment, Zhang Shan looked at Zhang Fuxing, who was being dragged out, and asked with a face full of worry, Fengzi, if we do this, will your reputation? Zhang Feng waved his hand and gestured for Zhang Shan to sit down. Then he said, he was in the wrong first, yet he was so arrogant as to covet my things. He definitely does not know that I do not dare to touch these things. Do you know why? Zhang Shan frowned and then asked hesitantly, is it because of the emperor? Zhang Feng nodded heavily and said, regardless of the dynasty, things like salt and grain are all controlled by the royal family. This phosphate fertilizer is enough to change the course of an era. Do you think the emperor will allow it to appear in the hands of one person? Even if he is really talented and is someone who is wholeheartedly thinking of the people? Zhang Feng shook his head and looked at Fang Xianling. Because in this era, why is there imperial power? Because it represents the centralization of power and the unification of the country. If this is not achieved, then this country will be in danger. Our emperor is a wise emperor, a good emperor rarely seen in thousands of years. How could he allow the people who had just calmed down to start a war again? It is precisely because of this that the emperor was willing to humiliate his son to cut off the white horse by the Wei River and sign the contract. All of this is because of Taiping. At this time, Fang Xuanling's whole body was almost shaking. If only Zhang Feng's words were said in front of the emperor. But, at this moment he finally understood why Zhang Feng was willing to share his things and even tacitly allowed them to cooperate with the imperial palace. It turned out that it was all because he understood the emperor. He understood the emperor. Such people were too few and far between. At this moment, Fang Xianling couldn't help but say, Fengzi is right. Master Zhang, we are all businessmen and naturally want the world to be peaceful. You also know the effect of this phosphate fertilizer. Whoever controls it is equivalent to controlling the lifeline of the Tang dynasty. Even if the emperor acquiesces, many people are not willing. What happened today may happen at any time in the future. The most terrible thing is that there may be a war. Hearing this, Zhang Shan sucked in a breath of cold air in shock. Fang Xianling said slowly, so, although Zhang Feng seemed a little reckless today, in fact, he was protecting you. If this matter is spread to the palace, it will be a serious crime that will be exterminated. Although this crime is not committed by the emperor himself, those in the imperial court who covet this phosphate fertilizer will crazily add insult to injury. You are Zhang Feng's father-in-law. So, once this matter is spread out, then today not only you, but also Fengzi will be in trouble. This time, Zhang Shan was really scared to death. He hurriedly asked, then in this case, the emperor was really alarmed today? Fang Xianling nodded and said, you don't know yet. Just now, this guy's subordinates were barking outside the door, saying that these things belong to the Zhang family and that they are also the property of the Zhang family. Today, they came to take back the property in Zhang Feng's hands. In this case, with this sentence, they have committed a capital crime, and it is very likely that you will be implicated. But fortunately, our second master, Lao Li, mediated behind the scenes, so Zhang Shan was in a bad mood. In an instant, a fine layer of cold sweat appeared on his head. He knew it. Why did the old man come alone today? It turned out that they were divided into two groups. If it weren't for Zhang Feng and Zhang Feng's friends, he really didn't know what would happen today. Unable to help himself, Zhang Shan hurriedly got up and bowed to Fang Xianling. Okay, you don't have to worry about this. It's getting late. I have to deal with other things quickly. Fengzi, you have to come with me. After finishing his words, Fang Xianling cupped his hands and hurriedly walked out of the door with Li Chengqian and the others. He didn't give Zhang Feng any chance to hesitate. Zhang Feng smacked his lips, then also cupped his hands and asked, Auntie and the others, are they all right? Hearing this, Zhang Shan sighed and said, they are all fine. I didn't consider this matter thoroughly. Today, I will arrange for the people in the mansion to stay. They only need to have 3 full meals a day. As for the other things, you don't have to worry about them. I'll go first and visit another day. As Zhang Feng spoke, he turned and left. But when he walked to the door, Zhang Feng said, Uncle Zhang, don't investigate what happened today. It's better for you to pretend that you don't know about it. In the future, no one will come here to make trouble. Chapter 1492. Zhang Feng's intention was actually very simple. He didn't want Zhang Shan to get involved. The more people involved, the more complicated it would be. This matter was already troublesome enough. If there were more people involved, it would be more troublesome to deal with. It seemed that this was probably the mastermind who wanted to muddy the waters. How could Zhang Feng not know all this? If it were him, he would do the same. Seeing the duck in his mouth fly away just like that, and making the matter known to the whole world, even Zhang Feng himself would want to take revenge. Moreover, from this matter, it seemed that this person already knew that their matter had been discovered by Lao Tzu. This time, things seemed to be getting more interesting. Someone wanted to make trouble and muddy the waters. Then, Lao Tzu wouldn't go back to the mountain. He would stay in Chang, in city to fight with you. Although Zhang Feng still didn't know who this person was, he vaguely felt that this person seemed to know him to a certain extent. Looking at the imperial guards at the door, Zhang Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Who the hell are you? However, the answer to Zhang Feng was Feng Xuanling's urging voice. Fengzi, now is not the time to think about this. I have other things to discuss with you. Let's get in the car and talk. While speaking, Feng Xianling hurriedly got into the carriage with Zhang Feng. Once they got in the car, Feng Xianling said with a dignified look, I suspect that something is wrong with this matter. Zhang Feng was surprised when he heard that. He said, You noticed it too? Feng Xianling nodded. Last night, a house in the Jiaqing area caught fire. Zhang Feng stared. What's the point of locking it up here? Feng Xianling interrupted Zhang Feng and said, Can you listen to me first? Zhang Feng nodded speechlessly and made a gesture of invitation. He was also very curious. Wasn't it just a fire? The houses in Jiaqing were similar to the old city. Most of them were in disrepair and were located in the corner. Therefore, few people lived there. Most of the people who lived there were poor people. But even so, there were very few people here. Basically, the people of Chang and were concentrated in the east and west cities. It was not surprising that a fire broke out here. Feng Xianling glanced at Zhang Feng and slowly said, Last night, this place caught fire. It was not surprising, but the spies in the palace found more than 30 people wearing night clothes entering this house. Furthermore, this house used quilts to cover the surrounding doors and windows. Do you understand now? Zhang Feng's eyes widened when he heard this. If he still didn't understand this, then he would have lived in vain. He hurriedly asked, Then which mysterious person's stronghold is this? Feng Xianling shook his head with a bitter smile. Let me finish. Last night, the palace mobilized at least 300 imperial guards and at least 100 golden guards to capture these people, but... Zhang Xian paused for a moment. But what? Zhang Feng was so anxious that he almost wanted to strangle Feng Xuanling's neck. Feng Xianling said unhurriedly, Since yesterday, they have been interrogated in the Ministry of Justice. Lord Zhangsun personally supervised the punishment, but these people refused to say anything. They only said Lord. Moreover, every piece of the house was turned over, but nothing was found. Now, only half of the wall is left. Zhang Feng stared. And then, Zhang Feng had naturally guessed this result. Since this place could be set on fire, it meant that they wanted to destroy this place. Since they wanted to destroy this place, there would be nothing left of this place. It would be strange if there was anything left. Zhang Feng was very interested. He asked, In that case, are you going to take me to have a look? Feng Xianling nodded. His Majesty and Lord Zhangsun both suspected that there was a big discovery, but these people refused to say anything. Moreover, His Majesty faintly felt that today's incidents seemed to be related to this matter. These people probably found out that we were watching them, so they wanted to muddy the water. But at this time, the people in the palace are really helpless. So Lord Zhangsun wants you to think about it. It's best to go to that place and have a look in person. Zhang Feng was speechless. He spread his hands and said, So, you can't find it, so you want me to go? That place, once the fire burns and the water flushes, what is left? Only ruins are left. You have eaten the ground. If I go, what's left? As soon as he said this, Zhang Feng's voice changed. He suddenly said, Go, 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 go quickly. Maybe if you go now, you can find something. Originally, Zhang Feng had thought that there was something wrong with the plan. Suddenly, he remembered that he often saw in Hong Kong films that many people in ancient times liked to hide things in the cracks of the bricks of the walls. At the thought of this, Zhang Feng asked eagerly, Let me ask you, do you think the remaining walls are all turned heads? Feng Xianling was stunned. He said, "How do you know?" Zhang Feng was about to go crazy with laughter. He laughed and said, "That's right. Think about it. The houses in this era are all mud houses and they are old. Once the fire burns and you pull it, what is left of it? Now there are only ruins left. There may be something inside." Chapter 1493. North of the city. That was the general name of this place. At this moment, there were already many soldiers guarding this place. Countless people were holding hoes and rummaging through the place. The original courtyard at this moment could not even find a piece of intact charred wood. It had all been hacked into pieces. But at this moment, a horse carriage and a group of imperial guards hurried over, instantly breaking the silence here. The people who came were naturally Zhang Feng and Fang Xianling. Zhang Sun Wuji, who was guarding at the side, saw this and hurried forward. At this moment, both of them were in disguise. Moreover, these were imperial guards. Therefore, although they knew their identities, they did not show any abnormal emotions in front of strict orders. However, although this horse carriage belonged to Fang Xianling, the person who could make the Lord Zhang Sun personally stand up to welcome, it was definitely not Fang Xianling. Then who could it be? Under everyone's gaze, Zhang Feng slowly lifted the curtain and jumped down from the horse carriage. At this moment, all the imperial guards could not help but be shocked. Someone who could come with Fang Gongzi and make the Lord Zhang Sun personally welcome him. He's Mr. He Xian? Suddenly, an imperial guard exclaimed in a low voice. Although his voice wasn't loud, all the imperial guards instantly understood what he meant. Zhang Sun Wuji could not help but frown when he heard the commotion. He cupped his hands towards Zhang Feng and said helplessly, "Feng Zi, this time, it has been hard on you." Zhang Feng also pointed at the group of imperial guards in astonishment. "You brought all these people here?" Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji's expression froze. He coughed and said loudly, "How could I have the ability to mobilize the imperial guards? Lord Zhang Sun lent them to me. He said that it was not convenient for him to come here, so he asked me to bring some people to look for clues. The most important thing is to surround this place. Since old Fang invited you here, you should go and take a look." While speaking, Zhang Sun Wuji waved his hand and said, "Since everyone knows Zhang Feng, old man will not introduce you. This time, I invited President Zhang here to see if there are any clues. Everyone, please make way." What the hell was going on? Lord Zhangsun, this was... However, even though everyone was thinking the same thing, they still opened up a path for him. It was the first time that Zhang Feng felt the deterrence of the imperial guards at such a close distance. To be escorted by the imperial guards, he had basically circled around Chang. Now, there were so many imperial guards standing on both sides. This awesome. Although she was happy in her heart, she couldn't help but curse when she saw the mess that had been turned over. As soon as he came in, Zhang Feng had the illusion that he had walked into a garbage dump. It was the feeling that a nail as thick as a thumb could sneak into the soles of his feet at any time. Zhang Feng had an impulse to step on the ground at this time. At this moment, the ground in front of Zhang Feng was covered in mud, and the low-lying area was full of muddy water. There were also some small things on the surface of the water that were moving up and down. Zhang Feng looked at these things in front of him and felt a chill. "I say, old son, how did this land become like this? Did these soldiers really plow this place?" Zhang Sun Wuji looked around indifferently and said, "Isn't this the way to check?" "No need to check. It's useless." Zhang Feng found a safe place with a wry smile and moved forward little by little. Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji was stunned. In fact, he had known about this matter for a long time. If this place was burned by someone, what clues would the person behind the scenes leave? But if he didn't look for it, he couldn't do it. After all, the emperor was angry. If he didn't find anything now, how could he explain it to the emperor? At this time, hearing Zhang Feng's words, Zhang Sun Wuji hurriedly followed Zhang Feng and asked, "What do you mean?" Zhang Feng pointed to the remaining half of the brick wall not far away, which was still covered by a pile of debris, and said, "Find someone to clean it up. I'll give you a surprise later." Hearing this, although Zhang Sun Wuji was a little suspicious, he still waved his hand and asked someone to quickly clean up the debris on the ground. After a while, the three of them also came here. Zhang Feng looked at the burned wall in front of him and gestured for a while. This seemed to be a central room. This place was usually a place to put a table or it's an offering table. But even if the table and chairs were burned here, the entire wall wouldn't be burned black. Then there was only one possibility. That was, this place was specially taken care of. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng no longer paid attention to others. He took out the dagger from his arms and gently scratched the black ash on the wall and in the cracks of the bricks. Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling saw this and squatted down curiously. At this time, the Imperial Guards also curiously gathered around at this time. They had searched this place at least 10 times. They hadn't found any clues. This wall was nothing more than a normal thing. Could it be that there was something extraordinary inside? Zhang Feng didn't pay attention to them. He still meticulously used the blade of the dagger to gently scratch every crack of the bricks. Just when Zhang Sun Wuji wanted to ask Zhang Feng, suddenly, the tip of Zhang Feng's dagger sank deep into the wall somewhere. This time, everyone's eyes were fixed on that place. Chapter 1494. This, Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling were experienced people, but they couldn't help but gasp at this moment. The Imperial Guards couldn't help but exclaim when they saw this. Oh my God! President Zhang has been found. Mr. He Xian has found a clue. Zhang Feng frowned and said, "Stop arguing." In an instant. Everyone stopped talking in an instant. They looked at Zhang Feng nervously. Even Zhang Sun Wuji, who was full of questions, could only frown and watch Zhang Feng's movements. Zhang Feng's dagger slowly rotated around the brick along the gap. After a while, the entire brick had been disturbed by Zhang Feng's dagger. That was to say, this brick was empty. It was knee-high from the ground. This place was the central room. How could there be such a loose brick in such an important place? One had to know that if this family could afford to use a brick, or was qualified to use a brick, then this family must have been extraordinary. What kind of things would such a family hide here? Zhang Feng gently pried the brick out with his dagger. Everyone's eyes followed the movement of the brick. After a while, the brick was pulled out. There was nothing else on the brick, and there were no traces of clay. Instead, there were some traces of soil, and the soil was fresh. Everyone couldn't help but look at the wall, and they couldn't help but feel suspicious. Could it be? Was there really something behind this wall? When they put out the fire, there was no need to save this place. Behind this central room was an altar made of bricks, which seemed to be a place for the ancestors' memorial tablets. However, nothing was left in the fire, and the altar didn't fulfill its duty of guarding this house. Instead, it was the first to collapse. This also showed that these people had done something outrageous. That was why the ancestors didn't bless them. After the brick was pulled out, Zhang Feng waved his hand and asked his men to come up and pull around the brick with all their might. After a while, a big hole half the height of a person appeared in everyone's sight. However, at this moment, there were still some rocks and broken bricks mixed in with some mud. However, the mud was very fresh and there was still some water dripping from it. This made the mud clamp down on the bricks and stones even more firmly. Of course, the water wasn't poured in when the fire was put out. After all, that place was an altar. Who would put these things here? Now, there was no need for Zhang Feng to say anything. Everyone already had a plan in their hearts. Zhang Feng's back was aching, and he made way for the Imperial Guards to pull the bricks themselves. At this time, Zhang Sun Wuji asked in shock, "Feng, how did you find these things?" Zhang Feng pointed at the wall, then pointed at the surroundings. "Do you even need to guess? You didn't ask me to come here to look for things in the mud, did you? This place is only so big. What else is there except for this wall? And think about it. Can ordinary people afford to use this brick?" Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling instantly figured everything out. "So, you agreed to come here because you heard about this wall?" Zhang Feng shrugged noncommittally. He ignored the two of them and admired the way these people stuck out their butts. After waiting for a while, an Imperial Guard exclaimed, and Zhang Feng instantly became excited. "Quick, quick, quick, get out of the way." Hearing this, everyone hurriedly made way for the hole. Zhang Feng didn't care about the mud on the ground and hurriedly pushed them away and got in. Zhang's son Wuji still didn't understand the situation. He hurriedly pulled the imperial guard who shouted just now and asked, "What's inside?" Hissid. Inside is an underground palace. An underground palace? What? Zhang's son Wuji and Fang Xianling couldn't help but exclaim. They hurriedly pulled the crowd and then followed Zhang Feng into the underground palace. It was dark inside the palace. It was also very humid. After the three of them went in, there was a straight staircase not far away. Inside, they could vaguely see candlelight jumping. Seeing this, Zhang's son Wuji was instantly shocked. He hurriedly pulled Zhang Feng out. Before Zhang Feng could ask, he scolded, "Come on, quickly go down and check for me." Underground palace. This was an incomparably huge underground palace. The area of the underground palace was as large as the sum of 3 houses. Although Zhang's son Wuji didn't go down, he could see a trace of the outline from the faint candlelight. To be able to have such a large underground palace in Chang'an City, why didn't they find any trace of it before? Under the emperor's feet, such a large underground palace. This was the first time in history that something like this had ever happened. Who on earth was so bold and presumptuous to have such a large underground palace here? Zhang Feng didn't say anything. Instead, he was playing with a piece of gold the size of an egg in his hand. The surface of the gold was carved into the shape of a fish scale. At this time in this place, he dug out this? After the imperial guard who hurriedly made the torches went into the cave, Zhang Feng nudged the two with his elbow, opened his palm, and asked, "You too, this thing, you are experienced and knowledgeable. What is in this cave? What statue is it?" Chapter 1495. Hearing that, Zhang's son Wuji and Fang Xianling also took the gold from Zhang Feng's hand curiously. The whole body of the gold had been polished. The top of the gold was in the shape of a fish scale, and there were traces of chiseling on it. Below the gold, there was a button-like slot, but at this time, the slot had been broken, and the broken part was very fresh. The two looked at the fish scale and then looked at the hole. Then, they snatched the torch from one of the imperial guards and hurriedly went in as well. Inside the hole, more than 50 imperial guards were holding torches, and the place was brightly lit. As soon as the 3 of them got in, they were so shocked by what they saw that they sucked in a cold breath. The entire cave was filled with dazzling gold and jade, but this was not the main point. The main thing was, Zhang's son Wuji found this hole familiar. It was too familiar. This was the damn political announcement hall. And it was a smaller version of the political announcement hall. Who was it? Who was so daring as to copy the entire political announcement hall and build it underground? This was no longer the crime of deceiving the emperor. This was the crime of rebellion. Guards! Zhang's son Wuji was angry. He shouted angrily. In an instant, the sound shook the eardrums of everyone in the underground palace. Zhang Feng was scared and his face turned pale. He hurriedly said, "Damn you, don't, it's one." Without waiting for Zhang Feng to finish speaking, the 50-plus imperial guards in the underground palace instantly let out a deafening roar. It almost shook Zhang Feng out of internal injuries. He knew that the ancient people were strong and had a loud voice, but he didn't know that the howling of more than 50 people in this closed environment could burst out such a terrible power. Seeing this, Zhang's son Wuji woke up. He hurriedly pulled Zhang Feng and helped him to walk down the center of the underground palace. Looking at the underground palace, Zhang's son Wuji was even angrier. "Feng Zi, do you know that this place has already offended the dignity of the emperor?" Zhang Feng finally woke up, but before he could take a look at his surroundings, he heard Zhang's son Wuji's words. He hurriedly looked around. The first glance was fine, but the second glance almost made Zhang Feng faint. Dragon patterns were carved all around this underground palace. Most importantly, these dragons were all 5-clawed golden dragons. They were all made of gold. At this moment, he looked at the scale-shaped piece of gold in his hand. Zhang Feng suddenly realized, this thing, they seemed to be dragon scales. Moreover, the place where they came down and the hole was actually on the front claw of a dragon. Even though Zhang Feng had the memories of 2 lifetimes and had seen some incredible things on TV in the 21st century, when he saw this, he couldn't compare it to these things here. In an instant, he felt that all those things were nothing. There were 3 mansions in this underground palace, which was about 2 to 3 mu of land. How much gold would there be in this underground palace? The most terrifying thing was that the ground was paved with gold. How much money did it burn? How much money did it have? Damn it! Zhang Feng couldn't hold it in anymore. He cursed. Zhang Feng's eyes were dazzled at this moment. After looking at it for a long time, he still couldn't understand everything here. Instead, he looked at the top screen engraved with dragon patterns. There was a map on the screen. To be precise, the Dragon Throne. Zhang Feng had seen this thing a lot on TV and movies. He had even seen it in the palace museum. This thing, it shouldn't appear here. Could it be that this was the tomb of some emperor? Or, this was Yang Guang's underground palace? In the romance of the Sui and Tang dynasties, there was also such a high-level underground palace. It was the place where Yang Guang kept his women and had fun before he ascended the throne. Although this was just something in a movie, there was no such record in Li Shimin or the old and new Tang dynasty books. Zhang Feng also knew that this thing was definitely fake. However, what about these things that appeared here at this time? And now this thing was in Chang'an City. It was only 3 streets away from the imperial city. Such a close distance. Thinking of this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but bump Fang Xianling, who was also in a daze at this time, and said, "Old Fang, this thing, do you think it's the so-called underground palace left by that old bastard Yang Guang?" Fang Xuanling's expression froze. After thinking carefully for a long time, he shook his head and said, "I don't think so. After all, at that time, I didn't hear about this thing in the rumors. And at that time, it was rumored that the retired emperor knew all of Yang Guang's palaces like the back of his hand. Do you think, if there is such a place, those surrendered officials of the previous dynasty won't come out?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng completely abandoned the romance of the Sui and Tang dynasties in his mind without a trace. This thing, damn, shouldn't believe in the romance of the Sui and Tang dynasties. Novels, movies, all these were, it was all AF * king lie. Zhang Feng couldn't help but look up to the sky and sigh. Chapter 1496. Zhang Sun Wuji was a little speechless as he said, "All right, Feng Zi, don't talk about these things anymore. It's useless to talk about these things now. You should first see if there are any clues here. Moreover, I can clearly tell you that this underground palace is definitely not left behind by the previous dynasty." Seeing that Zhang Sun Wuji was so resolute, Zhang Feng also nodded sincerely. After all, if this thing was left behind by the previous dynasty, it would definitely not be so well preserved. Moreover, if this was the case, since it had been discovered by those people, it would have been F** king emptied long ago. Why would they wait until now? Moreover, there was no trace of what happened last night. But from the description of Old Sun and Old Fang and the traces left behind at the scene, these people clearly held some activities here or had a secret meeting. When they finally left, they came to destroy the corpses. However, they never thought that Zhang Feng would actually find this underground palace. Otherwise, why would they just leave this place here? Or, was there another exit in this place? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng couldn't help but squint slightly and look around. The fire last night seemed to be very fierce, but there was no effect here. What did that mean? It meant that the enclosed environment here was very good. Even last night, after experiencing high temperature and finally watering, there was no change here. There wasn't even a trace of water vapor or choking smoke. That also meant that there was only one exit above. Then, could it be that this place, there was definitely an exit and there was more than one? After all, it was such a huge underground palace. If there was no exit, the person who came in would definitely be suffocated to death. However, Zhang Feng now felt that other than a trace of stuffiness, there was nothing else. If there was only one exit, it was absolutely impossible here. At least the gold here would definitely have melted, or there would definitely be choking smoke. But there was nothing left here. There wasn't even a trace of it. If someone lived here, they would never feel that there was a big fire above. What did this mean? This meant that the waterproofing and smoke-proofing here were done well. That was to say, there was definitely a big problem here. Zhang Feng's face became even gloomier at this time. He took a deep breath and looked at the top of the hall not far away. His eyes couldn't help but squint slightly. He slowly walked towards that place with Zhang Sun Wuji. At this time, Zhang Sun Wuji's face was extremely dignified. After all, this was not any other place. Although this was just an imitation of the political announcement hall, this was the court they had worked together for many years. It was inevitable that there would be a trace of fear and reverence in their hearts. After all, this was the first time they set this place. If this was the real political announcement hall, without the emperor's permission, how would they dare to be so presumptuous? This would definitely be a big crime. As soon as he stepped onto the 8 steps to heaven and saw the 9 steps below, Zhang Feng couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Old son, old Feng, you two are experienced and knowledgeable. Come and take a look at this thing. It seems to have a different feeling, as if you are overlooking the world. Zhang Feng's voice instantly shocked Zhang Sun Wuji. He hurriedly covered Zhang Feng's mouth. Zhang Feng's guess was right. After all, this was the political announcement hall. Although it was divided according to the original proportion, this was still the political announcement hall. Zhang Sun Wuji couldn't help but nod with a wry smile. You guessed right. This is indeed not an ordinary place. If we guessed correctly, this place is definitely that place. Zhang Feng was a little confused. Which place? Don't tell me you're talking about the current emperor. Zhang Sun Wuji nodded with a wry smile. It is as you guessed. This place is indeed that place, and it is the political announcement hall. What? Zhang Feng couldn't help but exclaim. What kind of place was the political announcement hall? It was the center of the entire centralization of power in the Tang dynasty. It was also the place where the daily court meetings were held. This person dared to bring this place here. This person's courage was not just a little bit big. Moreover, looking at the shape and the degree of aging, it was obviously not made in a day or two. That was to say, this person had been planning this before Li Shimin ascended the throne? Thinking about it, Zhang Feng couldn't help but have a fine layer of cold sweat on his back. This person was definitely someone in the palace, but Zhang Feng didn't dare to guess who this person was at this time. After all, this was related to the struggle for imperial power. Who could be sure? Moreover, according to the historical records, the current emperor, Li Shimin, absolutely eliminated all the children of Li Jianqing and others. If this was true, then it could absolutely be ruled out that Li Jianqing's people were playing tricks. Could it be Li Jianqing's old subordinates? But this was also somewhat unreasonable. After all, this place was not just any other place. This was also the place where the imperial power was most concentrated. Even if it was true, there should at least be a trace of movement in this thing. However, until the incident, no one knew the location of this underground palace. What did that mean? It meant that this person was either a member of the imperial family, or someone who was extremely trusted by the emperor. Moreover, he could have a very important network in this imperial city, which was why he could do this under the emperor's feet. The more Zhang Feng thought about it, the more he felt that there was an inexplicable interest behind this matter. Chapter 1497. Moreover, he suddenly felt that this person seemed to know his habits very well. Otherwise, he would not have made such a decision. Zhang Feng increasingly felt that this person was behind today's incident. However, there was one thing that Zhang Feng did not understand. That was Zhang Feng, had nothing to do with the emperor. If you want to fight for the throne, then fight for the throne. Why do you have to drag me into this? Did Lao Tzu provoke you? Or, Zhang Feng could not help but think of another possibility. That was, the things he did were too ostentatious. After all, from the fine salt, the cooperative, and now the phosphate fertilizer, which one of them could not make a lot of money in a short time. If you want to fight for the throne, then you have to get the economic power in your hands. Could it be that the target of this person behind the scenes was not me, but just to test me? So you want me to admit defeat and then rope me in? The more Zhang Feng thought about it, the more he felt that this was very likely. After all, this was not just any other thing. More likely, the whole thing was actually a trap. It was triggered from here to lure the emperor out. He wanted to see if there was the emperor's shadow behind me. Isn't this a King joke? Lao Tzu had never seen the emperor. If he had seen the emperor, Would I be forced to do such hard work? I would have gone to the imperial palace to enjoy my life. Zhang Sun Wuji looked at everything in front of him and then looked at Zhang Feng. He could not help but smack his lips. Feng Zi, do you feel that this thing has been planned since before the emperor ascended the throne? Hearing this, Zhang Feng came back to his senses. He looked around and then shook his head. I don't think it's possible. This underground palace should have existed since the beginning. Every household has a cellar. I think from the bricks just now, this person should be a rich person. Otherwise, ordinary people would not be able to afford or qualify to use this kind of brick to build houses. Since this person has this kind of brick, his family must be rich. Before I made the silver notes, basically every household, especially those rich ones, basically stored copper coins in boxes. You should be able to understand this, right? Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling both nodded. This is actually understandable, but what you said is a bit too mysterious. Although these things are true, there is no need to build such a big cellar. This is no longer a cellar, this is simply, look at this thing. Zhang Sun Wuji did not dare to say the words, Imperial Palace. He could only vaguely. But how could Zhang Feng not know? Zhang Feng nodded with a dignified face. Forget it, this matter is not under our control, and we can't care so much. Let's talk about the future later. Now that this thing has been found, my task has been completed. As for what to do next, it's your business. I'm tired today, I have to go back first. Zhang Sun Wuji actually wanted to leave, but at this time, the matter had reached the final step. If he left now, it would be a bit too much. So he hurriedly pulled Zhang Feng and said, Feng Zi, wait a moment. Zhang Feng yawned. What's wrong? Zhang Sun Wuji scratched his head embarrassedly. Feng Zi, wait a moment. While speaking, Zhang Sun Wuji looked around and said, Feng Zi, look at the layout of this place. I just looked carefully. This is completely built according to the scale of the political announcement hall. Moreover, there is so much gold in these 4 weeks. If you want to transport it down, it is impossible to transport so much gold from that cave. Also, these things need to be polished and smelted. Look at this place. Do you think it can be made in this place? Look again. This dragon chair and this screen are completely built according to the scale of the political announcement hall. I suspect that this is the work of those eunuchs in the palace, or... Before Fang Xianling finished speaking, he found that Zhang Feng's eyes were fixed on the map. The map was the map of the entire Tang dynasty, but at this time, it was particularly abrupt here. It seemed that someone was staring at this place. Although there was no trace on this map, when Zhang Feng saw this map at this time, he suddenly felt a trace of a monarch overlooking the world. At this time, Zhang Feng even felt like he was an emperor. Zhang Feng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. What kind of king genius was this to actually come up with such a method? This was simply not deceiving the emperor, this was absolutely treason. However, Zhang Feng was also slightly stunned. He asked curiously, I say, the two of you have been to the political announcement hall? Fang Xianling was stunned and asked, why do you say so? Zhang Feng took 2 steps back suspiciously and looked at the two of them. How are you so sure that this is the political announcement hall? Can't it be the appearance of some other duke's mansion? Or something else, such as the East Palace? The two of them heard this and their faces changed. Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling had been in this kind of shock and had forgotten about Zhang Feng. At this time, when they heard Zhang Feng say this, they had to fool him. Well, aren't we businessmen? Last year, when the palace was being renovated, we went to transport materials. In addition to your cement, we also sent some to the Ministry of Works, so, naturally, we saw it from afar. Chapter 1498. Zhang Feng looked at the situation in the underground palace and couldn't help but walk around the underground palace to study it carefully. After a while, Zhang Feng looked at the entrance of the underground palace and then looked around. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the back of the screen. Let's go, old Sun and old Feng. There's probably something inside. As he spoke, Zhang Feng led the two of them forward excitedly. Zhang Sun Wuji was so scared that he hurriedly sent a few imperial guards to go in front of Zhang Feng to investigate. Behind the screen, there was a picture of a coiling dragon cast in gold. The whole picture was like a dragon that was about to struggle out of it. It was quite strange and majestic. But other than that, there was nothing else. Zhang Feng was slightly disappointed when he saw this. This thing. He always felt that it was like what he saw in movies and novels, where there would be some kind of mechanism and after opening it, there would be a big secret. But he thought too much. This thing was just an ordinary thing. It didn't have that many twists and turns at all. There were not so many mechanisms and things. Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling followed behind Zhang Feng. They looked at where he was and asked in confusion, "Fengzi, what are you looking for?" "Looking for a mechanism. There must be a mechanism in this place. You guys come and look for it too. This place is so big. I don't believe that there isn't a secret door." Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling were speechless when they heard this. This thing. There was a secret door? The two of them didn't want to give face to Zhang Feng. They could only wave their hands and ask the Imperial Guards to go forward and look for it. Zhang Sun Wuji pulled Zhang Feng over with a smile and said, "Fengzi, shall we go up first? Let's leave this place to the Imperial Guards." Zhang Feng was stunned. "Hey, old son, I wanted to leave just now, but you guys refused to let me go, saying that this thing is not interesting. You guys are really good, insisting that I look at it again. Now, I don't want to look at it anymore." "Fine, you guys want me to leave again?" Zhang Sun Wuji chuckled and said, "It's useless to say so much about this matter now. Why don't we let the authorities handle it? After all, we know too much. It's not good for us." When Zhang Feng heard this, he frowned slightly and nodded. At this time, the few of them were here to look for clues. Now that they had found clues, and these things were related to the imperial family, the more they knew, the worse it would be for their lives. Zhang Feng also nodded repeatedly and said, that's right, tee." Just as Zhang Feng was speaking, in the darkness below the palace, there were sounds of stones rubbing against each other. Instantly, Zhang Feng and the other two involuntarily looked over. The three of them could not help but look at each other. Could it be that there was really some secret in this place? Found it. There's a secret door here. Quick, sir, please move, along with the Imperial Guard's exclamations. Zhang Sun Wuji could not help but urge, well, Fengzi, why don't we go and have a look? Look at this time, with such a thing happening, we should know what's behind this secret door, right? Zhang Feng frowned slightly. At this time, out of this secret door, could it be that there was something behind it? At this point, anyway, he already knew what he should know and what he should not know. He had seen the magnificence of this political announcement palace. This was not a big deal. Zhang Feng simply said, okay, lead the way. While speaking, Zhang Feng, Zhang Sun Wuji, and the other two went straight to the secret door. The secret door. In fact, it was just two stone doors. The stone doors were carved according to the door of a modern house, painted with a layer of brown earth paint and white cream paint, which looked like a normal door. But at this time, the two doors had been opened, and there was a dragon head on the door panel, which was neatly divided into two halves. It was dark, and there was a faint sound of wind whistling. The three of them could not help but look at each other. It was dark and gloomy, and it was made up of long stone strips. The passage was large enough for a horse carriage to pass through. What did this mean? Zhang Feng looked at the dark hole and could not help but feel scared. Instantly, the scenes of horror movies and treasure hunting in secret rooms flashed in his mind. He could not help but feel excited and timid. He wanted to go in and have a look, but he was afraid of the horrible scenes, such as piles of corpses and so on. At this time, Zhang Sun Wuji's face was also very dignified. After exchanging glances with Fang Xianling, he waved his hand. In an instant, more than a dozen Imperial Guards held torches and walked into the secret door. Soon after, these people stopped about 10 feet away from Lin Fan and waited. Seeing this, Zhang Sun Wuji said with a smile, Fengzi, why don't we go in and take a look? Zhang Feng heard this and the corner of his mouth twitched. Oh, I suddenly remembered that I have something important to do. You go first, I'll. Before Zhang Feng finished, Zhang Sun Wuji laughed and pulled Zhang Feng inside. Zhang Feng was scared and shouted, Hey, old son, let go, I'm not going in, I'm not going in. Chapter 1499. Zhang Feng was dragged in by force. In fact, Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling were more afraid of coming in than anyone else. But since they were already here, how could they explain it to the emperor if they didn't check it out? Before, they thought that Zhang Feng seemed to be bluffing. But this time, the secret passage was too strange. They didn't know what was waiting for them in it. But this time they had to come. If they didn't come, what if there was someone inside? Then, the most important thing was that Zhang Feng had a lot of ideas. If something went wrong, they would have Zhang Feng to take the blame for them. They wouldn't provoke the emperor's anger. The secret passage was very long. The deeper they went, the louder the wind became. And from time to time, water droplets dripped from the top like rain. Under their feet, it was no longer dry ground, but a thin layer of silt. Some rats were squeaking in it as if they were greeting them, or warning them that they had invaded their territory. Zhang Feng felt more and more strange at this time. From the secret passage until now, they had been at least 1 mile. According to the linear distance on the ground, now it seemed that they were out of the city. After all, this place was in the city, and it was only a block away from the outside of the city, plus the distance of a city gate. They should have been out of the city at this distance. Thinking so, Zhang Feng hurriedly shouted, "Stop!" While speaking, Zhang Sun Wuji was stunned and asked, "What's wrong?" "I found something. I suspect that there is nothing special about this passage." Hearing this, Zhang Sun Wuji rolled his eyes. "Do I need you to tell me that?" No. Zhang Feng repeatedly waved his hand, pointing to the water on the ground and said, "Is there Longsho Canal outside the city?" Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling looked at each other and said, "Yes." Hearing this, Zhang Feng nodded and said, "That's right. We don't need to go. It's in vain. There is no doubt that it is Longsho Canal outside." This, Zhang Sun Wuji and Fang Xianling were at a loss for words. They looked at each other and then said, "You guys go and take a look. Is the Longsho Canal outside?" As he spoke, a few imperial guards raised their torches and rushed into the darkness. But not long after, they returned, replying to the 3 sirs, "Outside is indeed the Longsho Canal that Lord Zhang mentioned." Some torches were found outside, as well as some burnt and torn clothes. This time, Zhang Feng finally understood everything. There really was a passageway here. Furthermore, these golden stones had all come in through this passage, so it made sense. There were some things that he didn't understand before. However, it led to the outside of the Longsho Canal, which was the outside of the city gate. This person was really thoughtful. Now, even if they wanted to investigate, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. There was no way to investigate. Zhang Feng, Zhang Sun Wuji, and Fang Xianling slowly walked out of the secret passage along the passage. Looking at the endless plain outside, the 3 of them all looked serious. "Fengzi, what do you think we should do now?" Zhang Feng spread out his hands and said, "How would I know?" "Then, you should have a countermeasure, right? What happened today seemed to be done by someone on purpose. First, someone deliberately provoked the conflict on your father-in-law's side. Then he attracted the attention of everyone here. Then he cleared everything that could be cleared. Although none of them had expected that you would be so mean and think of digging a hole under the altar. I think no one would have thought that there would be a hole in this place. Take this hole as an example. There are at least 70 or 80 such holes and secret passages in Chang and city, if not 100. These things are exactly the same. They are all used to discharge the sewage in the city. Who would have thought that there would be such a thing in this place? Moreover, this place is where all the commoners usually scoop feces and water. There are many people and eyes, and it is also a good place for them to cover their eyes and ears. If they want to investigate, then the difficulty is simply not ordinary. Motherf *Ker, who exactly is it that can think of such a seamless method? At this time, the 3 of them squatted by the canal, looking at the people who were fighting to scoop feces not far away, their faces full of worry. After thinking for a while, Zhang Sun Wuji looked at Zhang Feng and said, "Fengzi, what do you think we should do next?" Zhang Feng shrugged and said, What can we do? We should do what we should do. This time, I think we can use this hole as a gimmick and search Chang and city well. Although we can't find anything, at least it can be a warning. Also, tell Lao Li that if this thing didn't involve my family, I wouldn't care. But now that he dares to plot against my people, I will take this matter. I want to see who on earth this person is and how dare he plot against me, Zhang Feng. Zhang Sun Wuji glanced at the people in front of him and said, "Then, what should we do here?" Zhang Feng shrugged and said, "Since they sent money to the emperor, we should at least take some back, right? Let's go and deduct as much as we can. The rest will be left to Lord Zhangsun." Chapter 1500. Zhang Feng sneaked back to the villa. Along the way, he followed two men who were sweating profusely as they carried two huge bags made of armor, battle robes, and rattan. Du Ziting and the others were stunned. As soon as Zhang Feng entered the door, he smiled and took out a handful of coins from his bosom and rewarded them. Then he took out 2 banknotes of different denominations and gave them to the 2 imperial guards. The 2 imperial guards were so scared that they hurriedly waved their hands. This was Zhang Juyi, a good brother of the emperor, the youngest Grand Confucian of his generation, and the dean of the White Deer Institute. If they were to accept this money, even if they didn't become a joke when they returned, they would still be beaten to death. Who was this? This was the person who could feed the people of the Tang dynasty. How dare they take his money? Zhang Feng saw this and hurriedly helped them up. "Soldiers, you've worked hard today, but I won't give you the money for free. I have a mission for you." Hearing this, the 2 hurriedly threw the 2 bags on their shoulders to the ground. They knelt down on one knee and said, "Please give us your orders, Lord Zhang." Zhang Feng laughed and helped them up. Then he asked Du Ziting to bring the 2 bags into the study and the armor back. Then he led the 2 into the living room. After sitting down, Zhang Feng said, "This money is not for you, but for the brothers here today. But this money is for you to do something for me." Hearing this, the 2 hurriedly knelt down again. Zhang Feng hurriedly said, "Don't. I can't bear to see people like this. Also, you should know the rules on my mountain. A man's knee only kneels to the heavens, his parents, his benefactors, and the emperor. As for the others, even the heavenly King Lao Tzu, they can all stand aside. Of course, this is all nonsense. Today, what I want to say is to spread the news about this underground palace. Say that someone is going to rebel. The fiercer the news, the better." The 2 imperial guards were a little shaken. They were the imperial guards. Since their home was in Chang, and there were naturally many people who knew of their identities. If they deliberately spread the news at this time, the consequences would be, just the thought of it was terrifying. Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "I know what you 2 are thinking. Please don't worry. I, Zhang Feng, will naturally reward you handsomely for this matter in the future. Also, if anyone questions you, just say that it was the Lord Zhangsun who instructed you to do so." When the 2 heard this, their eyelids twitched involuntarily. Although what he said was correct, and the Lord Zhangsun was right beside him earlier, the Lord Zhangsun did not mention this matter. The 2 of them couldn't help but feel a little confused. He didn't know what they were playing at. As for Zhang Feng's words, they wanted to hear it, but once this matter was spread out, how big of a sin would it be? Zhang Feng naturally knew what the 2 of them were thinking, so he didn't say much. He called out, "Men, bring these 2 masters down to entertain them well." After sending the 2 of them off, Zhang Feng rushed into the study excitedly. As soon as he entered, he saw Du Ziting staring blankly at the pile of gold on the floor of the study. When she saw Zhang Feng enter, Du Ziting asked in shock, "Master, what are these?" Zhang Feng waved his hand and closed the door. After dismissing everyone outside the door, he rubbed his hands with a smile and squatted on the ground. He picked up the gold pieces one by one, put them in his mouth and bit them. Then he let out a burst of laughter. His laughter made the butler uncomfortable. When Du Ziting saw this, she hurriedly squatted down. If this pile of gold was something else, it would be fine. This thing looked like a whole leg, and it looked like a dragon's leg. Now that it appeared in front of him, how could the butler not be frightened? "Master, where did you get this thing?" Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, Don't worry about where these things came from, find something for me first and put this leg in. I have to treat it as a family heirloom. Family heirloom. If this thing was spread out, it would be a crime that could be beheaded. Dragon. Dragon. That was the symbol of the emperor. At this time, Zhang Feng brought back a dragon leg gold. How could this not make people scared? Today, Du Ziding had already heard about what happened in Zhang Shan's mansion. At this time, her master still had the leisure to bring back such a big bag of gold. Moreover, he did it so stealthily that it would be hard not to attract attention. Master, this thing. Before Du Ziding finished speaking, Li Shimin's faint voice came from outside the door. Fengzi, why are you hiding in there so sneakily? Hearing this, Du Ziding's face changed, and she instinctively wanted to pick up the gold on the ground and hide it, but Zhang Feng waved his hand indifferently. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. As he spoke, Zhang Feng chuckled as he opened the door. As soon as the door was opened, Zhang Feng laughed and opened his arms to hug Li Shimin. Lao Li, we're really rich this time. You came at the right time, let's go, I'll take you to make a fortune. Chapter 1501. This morning, Li Shimin. He had been dealing with government affairs. But he also heard about what happened in Zhang Feng's mansion. Originally, he wanted to go and take a look. But after knowing that Zhang Feng was there, Li Shimin changed his route and went to Zhang Feng's mansion to wait. But he didn't expect that this kid didn't hear him speak in the living room. Instead, he hurried into the study after instructing the 2 imperial guards to do something. So sneaky. When Zhang Feng entered the door, Li Shimin saw him. He didn't say anything at that time. He also wanted to see what Zhang Feng was going to do. But he didn't expect this kid to give such a big gift as soon as they met. If it was someone else. At this time, he reckoned that he, Li Shimin, must reward him with a big stick fried meat. What a scandal! This was simply a disgrace to a gentleman. Fengzi, what are you doing? Li Shimin hurriedly struggled out of Zhang Feng's arms and looked at Zhang Feng with some disdain. But Zhang Feng didn't care. He pulled Li Shimin into the house and then closed the door again. He pointed at the dragon claw and dragon leg pieced together by gold ingots on the ground and said, Lao Li, take a look. How much is this thing worth? Li Shimin only then noticed the thing on the ground. He didn't panic when he saw it. Li Shimin was almost shocked. He hurriedly asked, This thing, where did you get it? Zhang Feng smiled proudly and said, Let's not talk about where this thing came from. Anyway, this thing was obtained through legal means. Tell me, how much is this thing worth? Li Shimin glanced at it and couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Could this thing be measured by money? Was this something that could be measured with money? This thing, if spread out, would be a death sentence. Li Shimin couldn't help but ask, Fengzi, this thing is priceless, but you know that this thing can only be used by the royal family. If today's matter spreads out, it's okay, let's not talk about this first. Guess where I got this thing? Li Shimin heard this and said, Didn't I just hear you say that there is an underground palace? Zhang Feng nodded, Yes. It's the house that caught fire last night. Today, Old Feng and Old Sun came to me and said that Lord Zhang Sun wanted me to help find a clue, so Zhang Feng explained the whole sequence of events in detail. Only then did Li Shimin know the truth of the matter. After all, when he came here, Zhang Sun Wuji and the rest were out on errands. Moreover, he didn't expect that the 2 of them would actually run to find Zhang Feng. But this was not the matter. The key was, Zhang Feng actually found a big thing. He hurriedly asked, Fengzi, you mean this thing was found in that underground palace? After Zhang Feng asked Li Shimin to sit down, the housekeeper consciously left the study. Zhang Feng lit a cigarette for Li Shimin and said, You don't know, the whole underground palace was built according to the scale of the political announcement hall. Most importantly, the materials used to build this underground palace are all F*King gold ingots. And this kind of dragon decoration extends to the whole palace. What? Li Shimin was shocked. He hurriedly asked, Let's go, take me to see it. Li Shimin's lungs were about to explode from anger. Who the F*Ck was this? This was a blatant threat. Zhang Feng saw that Li Shimin's face was a little scary at this time and asked with some doubts, Lao Li, what's wrong with you? Why do you look like this? Li Shimin heard this and knew that his performance was a little too much. He took a deep breath and said, "Fengzi, you're in trouble." Zhang Feng heard this and was instantly stunned. Why did he get into trouble all of a sudden? And if it weren't for Lao Li's promise, would old Feng and the others come to me for help? What kind of logic was this? Zhang Feng couldn't help but criticize in his heart, "This is all because old Feng and the others came to me. I found so much gold. Even the emperor would be jealous when he saw it, right? How much wealth did I get for the emperor this time? How did I get into trouble?" Li Shimin shook his head and said, "No, Fengzi, you're wrong. In fact, this matter is wrong from the root. Let me ask you, did you leave any clues in the underground palace?" Zhang Feng heard this and shook his head. Li Shimin asked again, "Then, in this underground palace, are there any words left behind, or are there any traces left behind by others?" Zhang Feng still shook his head, but at this time, Zhang Feng's face changed a little. He suddenly thought of a possibility. Someone of Asterisk King deliberately did this? And deliberately used this gold to tempt Lao Tzu? Thinking of this, Zhang Feng hurriedly asked, "Lao Li, do you mean that someone deliberately dug a hole for me?" Li Shimin nodded and said, "These people are naturally very familiar with your and my movements. After the incident at Zhang Mansion today, they knew that you would definitely come down the mountain. And after I came down the mountain, I would definitely appear. Naturally, you would also know about the fire in the city last night. So, someone dug a big hole and baited you step by step. And now, there are only two things that they want to see. First, they want to see if you can find this underground palace. Second, they want to see if you are really greedy." Chapter 1502. Zhang Feng couldn't help but feel some admiration for these people. They were truly capable of using anything down to the smallest detail. Just who was this person who could play with the human heart so clearly? Zhang Feng couldn't help but think of all the people he knew, but in the end he eliminated all of them. The only person that seemed most suspicious was Duke of Qin, Hou Junji. Zhang Feng could not help but nudge Li Shimin, who was also in deep thought, and asked, "Old Li, where is this Duke Qin?" Li Shimin couldn't help but be alarmed by this question. It can't be Duke of Qin, right? Zhang Feng knew that Li Shimin was being overly suspicious, so he waved his hand and said, "Why are you in such a rush? I was just casually asking. My intuition tells me that this person might know both of us. Otherwise, just think about it. He's targeting both the imperial court and me. Haven't you noticed anything?" Li Shimin naturally had his suspicions. But not even if he was beaten to death would he believe that this Duke of Qin, Hou Junji, was such a powerful pair of hands. After all, Duke of Qin had vanished without a trace the moment he ascended the throne, voluntarily resigning to retire in Luozhou. If such a person wanted to rebel, why would he have handed over his authority? This was the most suspicious point. Once a person handed over their authority and resigned, they would no longer have anything to do with the imperial court. This person was also an instant man. Ever since the Xuanwu Gate incident, his performance had been particularly outstanding. Thus, after Li Shimin ascended the throne, he had decided to return to his hometown. Li Shimin couldn't bear to see him go, so he had him transferred to Luozhou in order to suppress Luozhou. Moreover, Duke of Qin had been living in the Crown Prince residence this entire time because of the Crown Prince's matter. How could such a person want to rebel? Li Shimin would never believe that Hou Junji was such a person. Then, now that Zhang Feng had said this, Li Shimin realized something terrifying. What was this person trying to do? He hurriedly asked, "Fengzi, what do you think? What was this person trying to do?" Although the matters of the imperial court are not something that ordinary people like us can comment on, now that we are all involved, you can give Lao Li some advice so that I can prepare in advance. Zhang Feng raised his eyebrows and glanced at Li Shimin. "Actually, I've always suspected that this person is someone close to us. Why do I feel that you're the most suspicious?" Li Shimin was shocked. He hurriedly laughed and said, "What are you talking about? I, Lao Li, am just an ordinary businessman. If I had such great ability, would I still be like this?" Zhang Feng saw Li Shimin's anxiousness and hurriedly said, "I was just joking. Do you have to be like this? All right, let's talk about this. Have you noticed that this person's ambition is not small? I have a suspicion that your business has also been targeted, or that someone has infiltrated it. When Zhang Feng said this, Li Shimon's heart instantly quivered. He hurriedly said, "Let's go. This is not the place to talk. Let's go to the underground palace." A moment later, a carriage hurriedly appeared outside the heavily guarded ruins. At this time, the leader was Qing Yaojin's personal guard. This place had been completely taken over by the Chang and military camp. Except for flies, nothing else could get close. Zhang Feng had already guessed this matter. After all, not to mention other things, the gold underground was enough for the entire Tang dynasty's people to eat for a month. They didn't need to work, and they could eat and drink like fish and meat. How terrifying was this? And most importantly, the underground palace was built according to the appearance of the political announcement palace. Although Zhang Feng didn't know what the political announcement palace looked like, when he saw the underground palace, Zhang Feng already had some different ideas about the political announcement palace. "Who are you?" Just when Li Shimon and Zhang Feng got off the carriage, the soldier carrying a halberd and riding a tall horse slowly urged his horse forward. However, when he came forward and saw Li Shimon, he was first shocked and a trace of doubt appeared in his heart. This person looked extremely familiar, and his whole body exuded a kind of imposing manner. He didn't dare to look at him directly. What was going on? He really hadn't seen this person before. Who was this person? Looking at the white-robed young man, he also looked very familiar. After thinking for a while, he suddenly thought of something. He hurriedly got off the horse and put on a smile. He bowed to Zhang Feng and said with a smile, "Sun Disheng greets Mr. Xian." In an instant, the young general named Sun Disheng waved his hand and said, "Everyone has won. Salute." The Mingguang armor, together with the turtleback fish scale armor worn by the soldiers, at this moment, burst out bursts of collision between the copper plate and the iron scale armor, making a kind of austere atmosphere. "Mr. Xian." Zhang Feng couldn't help but stand at attention when he heard a thunderous explosion. Coupled with the heavy armor and the modern military salute, Zhang Feng couldn't help but stand at attention. "Hello, comrades." Of course, Zhang Feng's words made everyone stunned. They didn't understand. And Li Shimon was also surprised to find that Zhang Feng already had such a high reputation in the army. He couldn't help but click his tongue and said, "Feng Zi, I didn't expect you to be so popular in the army." Zhang Feng also didn't expect. Thinking about it carefully, it should be because of the military training, plus the connection of Xiaohu's leg. Zhang Feng ignored Li Shimon and saluted Sun Disheng. "What's your name?" "Young General Sun Disheng." Hearing this, Zhang Feng was in awe. With a pa sound, he saluted and said, "Sun Disheng of the Cavalry Company is here." Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Li Shimon gets angry. Sun Disheng was an amazing person. Zhang Feng had only seen him on television before. But who would have known that there was actually someone here with this F***king name? And Sun Disheng was dumbfounded. Who was Zhang Feng? This was the most awesome Confucian scholar of the present age. He was an awesome person who could make Master Yushan vomit blood in anger. He was also an awesome person who could snatch blood and return a soul. He was also an awesome person who came up with a type of military training that could make you beg for death. Although this type of training method had always been loved and hated by people in the army, and there were even people who wanted to F***king kill Zhang Feng, the effects of this thing were also very terrifying. As long as they could endure the first 2 months, this soldier, at least in terms of physical fitness and overall combat strength, would have a great improvement. 10 soldiers like this, even if a general came, would be terrified. Don't you think it was terrifying? This was what created Zhang Feng's terrifying prestige in the army. In the army, it was the easiest to get injured, and losing an arm or a leg was as common as eating porridge, especially when there was war. Before, everyone would pray to the heavens and earth every day when they woke up, praying to their ancestors that they would not be robbed of their limbs. But now, it was all good. With Zhang Feng's miraculous medical skills, whether it was a broken leg or a dried-up blood, it was no longer a problem. Sun Disheng was excited. He hurriedly saluted and returned the greeting, "Mr. Xian." "Sun Disheng." He Xian, that's enough. Li Shimin looked at the two idiots with a dark face and said, "Do you want me to arrange another time for you two to shout for the whole day?" Hearing this, Zhang Feng put his arm around Li Shimin's shoulder and said, "What do you know? This is the friendship between us men. Although this is the first time I've met Brother Sun, why do I feel like I've known him in my previous life?" Hearing this, Sun Disheng's eyes widened, and he almost asked about his previous life. But Li Shimin directly pulled Zhang Feng inside. Zhang Feng quickly said, "Oh right, I have to go in and take a look. Old Sun, let's treat you to a drink another day." While speaking, Zhang Feng was dragged into the ruins by Li Shimin. After Zhang Feng and Li Shimin entered the ruins, a soldier hurriedly ran to the dizzy Sun Disheng and whispered, "General, Mr. He Xian doesn't seem to have any approval." But Sun Disheng slapped him in the face and said, "Mr. He Xian is someone you can call? Do you all know that the things underground were found by Mr. He Xian? All of you listen to Lao Tzu, quickly send 2 small teams to protect Mr. He Xian. If Mr. He Xian loses a single hair, Lao Tzu will break your legs." Not far away, little Gizi heard this and put back the token that he had just taken out from his sleeve. He quietly stood by the carriage and waited. On the other side, Li Shimin had long been eager to take a look at this underground palace. Not to mention the layout, just the amount of gold that Zhang Feng had described made Li Shimin's heart light up. How much gold was there? This gold was enough for him to renovate Taiji Palace. The entrance to the underground palace was now completely exposed. At the entrance, a group of soldiers used materials on the ground to make a house. At least if people saw it, they would not be suspicious. Once they entered the underground palace, Li Shimin was shocked speechless by the scene in front of him. The oil lamps around the underground palace were all lit up, and there were also candles that were constantly dancing. The entire underground palace, under the illumination of the candles, instantly burst into bursts of golden light. It looked as if they had entered a dream. Stepping on the floor tiles that were wrapped in a thick layer of gold, Li Shimin's heart was bleeding. This place was right. This was the political announcement hall. And this was even more extravagant than the political announcement hall. Everything here was mainly made of Phoebe Jinan wood and gold, especially the several large pillars in the hall. Those pillars were so thick that it would take 5 people to wrap their arms around them. Although it was not as big as the real political announcement hall, the golden dragons coiled around it made Li Shimin's chest slowly rise and fall. Zhang Feng was not much better at this time. Although it was the second time he saw this thing, seeing it now was even more different from the previous ones. At this time, under the illumination of the lights, everything was revealed. Luxurious, domineering, majestic. Zhang Feng thought for a long time and could only think of these 3 words to describe this place. Especially the 2 giant dragons on the left and right. On the wall that was 1.5 feet high. On one side, a golden dragon occupied the front wall. It was like a living creature, staring at the position of the dragon throne and hissing. Li Shimin slowly walked towards the dragon throne. At this time, Zhang Feng's gaze was completely attracted by the magnificence of this place. He did not notice Li Shimin's aura at this time at all. Otherwise, he would have already noticed Li Shimin's abnormality. The 2 groups of soldiers, under the clashing sound of armor, slowly pulled out their modeo and were on guard. Looking at Li Shimin walking towards the dragon throne, they did not pay too much attention. Li Shimin slowly stood in front of the dragon throne, looked at the dragon throne, and then looked below. Suddenly, a flash of anger burst out from his eyes. Who the hell did this? Chapter 1503. Zhang Feng was also shocked by Li Shimin's sudden outburst. He never thought that Li Shimin, who always had a bad temper, would have such a big reaction. He couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. At this time, when he looked at Li Shimin, Zhang Feng suddenly had the illusion that he was looking at a leader. The aura that Li Shimin was emitting from the inside out made Zhang Feng feel a little scared. Li Shimin's words, however, gave these soldiers a big fright. When they saw him on the dragon throne, they could pretend that they didn't see him for the sake of Zhang Feng. Now, why the F***ck are you shouting so loudly? What are you shouting about? Come down. That place is not somewhere you should go. If it weren't for the sake of Mr. He Xian, You wouldn't dare to go to that place. Do you know where this place is? Come down. Amidst the dissatisfied roars of the soldiers, Li Shimin's aura instantly withered. At this time, he realized that this was not the political announcement hall. It was just a small underground palace. Below the hall, there were no officials, but a group of soldiers who had never seen the world. The most important thing was that he had put on makeup. It was reasonable that these people didn't recognize him. At this time, when they looked at Zhang Feng, they actually looked at him with a different gaze. Li Shimin was shocked when he saw this. He hurriedly said, "You don't recognize me?" Zhang Feng smacked his lips. "I really couldn't tell. Old man, you were really intimidating people just now." Li Shimin rolled his eyes and sighed. "There's nothing I can do. I came because I was angry. Look at this palace. This is simply a rebellion. And I'm beginning to suspect that someone is playing tricks on our current industry. Most importantly, I'm beginning to suspect that there are other people's spies in our industry. You see, we have nothing to do with the palace. But look at this period of time. From coal to iron, and then to the border matters. Although they don't seem to be connected individually, now, after you connect them, I suddenly feel that someone is weaving a big net, and we are also caught in this net. This is not a good sign." Hearing this, Zhang Feng nodded and said, "That's right. I also feel that these things are too unbelievable." While talking, Zhang Feng pulled Li Shimin to a corner, dismissed the soldiers around him, and said, "The point is, these people want to usurp the throne, so they can do it. Motherf asterisk her, why do they have to drag us in?" Li Shimin was also angry at this time. He sighed and said, "I have an idea, that is, this person's ambition is not only in the court. His idea is to control the economy of the Tang dynasty. And what you are doing now is enough to shake the entire Tang dynasty. Whoever controls these things, then, and I also suspect that the steel you tinkered with on the mountain, the strong crossbows, and so on have been known. The most important thing is that they have known from the beginning." Zhang Feng looked at Li Shimin in surprise. He looked at him with some disbelief and said, "Tisk, hehe, I didn't realize that you were enlightened. Yes, this person exposed this underground palace at this time and did not hesitate to give up so much gold. I suspect that this is also their conspiracy." Li Shimin hurriedly asked, "Fengzi, you mean?" Zhang Feng interrupted Li Shimin and pointed to the secret door under the palace and said, "This secret door leads directly to the Longsho Canal outside the city. Do you know what it means? If someone wants to rebel, they can use this passage to smoothly enter the city and occupy the city gate in a short amount of time. Outside is a wide expanse of flat land with 16 royal residences. These are the residences of almost half of the Great Tang's important officials. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that through the Tonghua Gate, it will take less than 10 minutes to reach the Imperial City. The Imperial City. Buzz. Li Shimin's head was about to explode in an instant. Just as Zhang Feng said, Li Shimin was naturally familiar with the situation here. But when he thought of the place behind the secret door, Li Shimin could not help but feel a chill in the wine. What if there was really someone who wanted to rebel? Then, Zhang Feng naturally knew that someone wanted to rebel. But this matter was too big, and it was not the right time. The current crown prince, Li Qingqian. In history, under the urging of Hou Junji, he had indeed usurped the throne, but the final outcome was, there was also Li Tai. These two brothers had perfectly inherited the glorious deeds of the current emperor, and they had also rebelled, but the outcome was still Li Ji's. But Zhang Feng did not dare to say it. Motherf asterisk her, if this matter did not have 100% proof, who would dare to arrest someone based on these things? Even if the current emperor himself came, he would not dare to make such a conclusion so easily, right? This was the crown prince. If such a situation occurred, the court would be shaken, and if it was serious, Zhang Feng thought of this and sighed, "Lao Li, let's not worry about this matter." Li Shimin heard this and asked in surprise, "Why? Do you know what it means if that person deliberately exposed this place?" Li Shimin naturally did not know, so he hurriedly asked, "Say it." Zhang Feng looked at the secret door and said, "This leads to the Longsho Canal outside the city, and all the clues are cut off here. That person might just be guessing that I won't be able to find it, and even if I did, he might want to use this thing to seal our mouths. Chapter 1504. What? Li Shimin was shocked. He was most afraid of such an ending. Every time he was about to solve the mystery, he couldn't find any clues when it came to the end. From the iron mine to the Tang family. At noon today, something happened in Xianxia's mansion. Then here. None of them had an ending. It was like punching hard. Every time he punched, it was like punching cotton. It was very uncomfortable. Hearing Zhang Feng's words, Li Shimin was anxious. He asked, "Fengzi, does that mean there is no clue?" Zhang Feng smiled and said, "What do you think?" Li Shimin wanted to beat Zhang Feng to death. How could he be in the mood to guess? Seeing Li Shimin's bad expression, Zhang Feng said, "Didn't you see the Imperial Guard when you were in my mansion today?" At that time, I was already asking him to spread the news that the gold was found in the underground palace. Hearing this, Li Shimin's face changed instantly. The more people knew about this, the more unfavorable it would be for the underground palace. What was Zhang Feng thinking? How could he want to spread the news? Wasn't he digging his own grave? "Fengzi, aren't you a little rash to do this?" Li Shimin knew that Zhang Feng hated this deeply. Otherwise, with Zhang Feng's temper, how could he do such a stupid thing? He must be confused because of anger. Let's not talk about whether the gold in this place would attract the attention of some people with bad intentions. The meaning was that this place was inviolable. Once more people knew about this place, where would he, Li Shimin, put his face? "Fengzi, don't you think about the emperor's face? Once the emperor is angry because of this." Zhang Feng waved his hand and said, "If the emperor knows what I do, he will understand my reason." Li Shimin was dumbfounded. When had he ever been able to understand what Zhang Feng was trying to do? He hurriedly asked, "Fengzi, how can the emperor know what you're thinking? Furthermore, anyone would find your actions rash." Zhang Feng hugged Li Shimin and sat on the steps of the underground palace. He looked at the secret door below and said, "Look at that door and then look at the layout of this place. Everything here, I heard from Old Sun and Old Fong that everything was moved here according to the political announcement hall. If you were the emperor, what would you think?" "That's right. You're not the emperor." Zhang Feng patted his forehead and said in surprise, "Why are you worrying so much? You only need to know that I'm doing this to get some clues. Behind this door is the Longsho Canal. There are no clues, but the entrance to the underground palace is the biggest clue. If the emperor can understand my thoughts, he only needs to block the imperial guards on the ground and the entrance of the cave. Then, he won't tell anyone that there is another entrance here. He only needs to arrange a large number of troops here. Guess what the consequences will be?" Li Shimin's heart, which was originally anxious for all of you, instantly became fiery. This was waiting for rabbits to appear. Moreover, the people who knew about this secret entrance were basically only those who participated in this matter. Now, if the news of the gold was spread out, these people, Li Shimin patted Zhang Feng's shoulder and said, "Fengzi, I understand." While speaking, Li Shimin hurriedly got up and hurriedly entered the secret door under Zhang Feng's surprised gaze. Zhang Feng hurriedly shouted, "Lao Li, what are you doing?" "I'm informing the Lord Zhangsun. This time, we must let the people who come in, all." Li Shimin's voice became softer and softer. In the end, there was nothing left. Seeing this, Zhang Feng was stunned. Looking at the empty underground palace, Yi Zichen sighed. Zhang Feng's heart also became hot. How could he return empty-handed when he came to a treasure mountain? On the other side, Li Shimin led him along the secret passage of the underground palace all the way to the city gate. Along the way, there were always imperial guards on guard. As soon as they came out, imperial guards who had been on guard at the city gate hurried over. Every time Li Shimin went out, there would be a large number of imperial guards accompanying him. However, these people strolled in every corner within 100 steps with Li Shimin as the center. Today, Li Shimin came to the place where the fire broke out. It was a dangerous place. Needless to say, there were more people coming. At this time, when the guards saw Li Shimin suddenly appear outside the city, he was shocked. He hurriedly whistled a few times and then hurried to Li Shimin's side. Li Shimin waved his hand. Go back to the palace quickly. Then, the imperial guards got 2 horses from the guards at the city gate. 2 people rode 2 horses and hurriedly entered Chang and city. After hearing the news from the secret guard, little Gizi and the others hurried to the city gate. However, when they arrived, they were shocked to see the emperor riding a horse and galloping quickly in Chang and city. Little Gizi was so scared that he hurriedly scolded the others to follow. However, when little Gizi was about to leave, he suddenly thought of an extremely important matter. Didn't the emperor enter the underground palace from that house? Why did he come back from outside the city?